Chapter 12. M. de Charny. M. de Suffren had requested his nephew to wait his return, and he therefore remained in the group as before. The Queen, speaking low to Andre and glancing towards him, said, "It is he, there is no doubt. Mon Dieu! Yes, madam, it is he indeed." At this moment the door opened, and a gentleman dressed in the robes of cardinal, and followed by a long train of officers and prelates, entered the room. The Queen immediately recognized M. de Rohan, and turned away her head, without taking the trouble to hide the frown which overspread her face. He crossed the room without stopping to speak to anyone, and, coming straight up to her, bowed to her more as a man of the world bows to a lady than as a subject to a queen, and then addressed some rather high-flown compliments to her. But she scarcely looked at him, and, after murmuring a few cold words in reply, began to talk to Madame de Lamballe. The cardinal did not seem to notice this chilling reception, but bowed again and retired without appearing in the least disconcerted. He then turned to the king's aunts, from whom he met with a reception as cordial as the Queen's had been the reverse. The Cardinal Louis de Rohan was a man in the prime of life, and of an imposing figure and noble bearing. His eyes shone with intelligence, his mouth was well cut and handsome, and his hands were beautiful. A premature baldness indicated either a man of pleasure or a studious one, and he was both. He was a man no little sought after by the ladies, and was noted for his magnificent style of living. Indeed, he had found a way to feel himself poor with an income of 1,600,000 francs. The king liked him for his learning, but the Queen hated him. The reasons for this hate were twofold. First, when ambassador to Vienna, he had written to Louis XV, letters so full of sarcasm on Maria Theresa that her daughter had never forgiven him, and he had also written letters opposing her marriage, which had been read aloud by Louis XV at a supper at Madame Dubarry's. The embassy at Vienna had been taken from M. de Breteuil and given to M. de Rohan. The former gentleman, not strong enough to revenge himself alone, had procured copies of these letters, which he had laid before the Dauphiness, thus making her the eternal enemy of M. de Rohan. This hatred rendered the cardinal's position at court not a little uncomfortable. Every time he presented himself before the Queen, he met with the same discouraging reception. In spite of this, he neglected no occasion of being near her, for which he had frequent opportunities, as he was chaplain to court, and he never complained of the treatment he received. A circle of friends, among whom the Baron de Plana was the most intimate, helped to console him for these royal rebuffs, not to speak of the ladies of the court, who by no means imitated the severity of the Queen towards him. When he was gone, Marie Antoinette recovered her serenity and said to Madame de Lamballe, "Do you not think that this action of the nephew of M. de Suffren is one of the most remarkable of the war?" "What is his name, by the by?" "M. de Charny, I believe," replied the princess. "Was it not?" she said, turning to Andre. "Yes, your highness. M. de Charny shall ascribe it to us himself," said the Queen. "Is he still here? Let him be sought for." An officer who stood near hastened to obey her, and immediately returned with M. de Charny, and the circle round the Queen made way for him to approach. He was a young man, about 28, tall and well-made, his face, animated and yet sweet, took a character of singular energy when he spoke, and dilated his large blue eyes, and he was, strange to say, for one who had been fighting in India, as fair as Philippe was dark. When he had approached the place where the Queen sat, with Madel, de Taverny, standing near her, he did not betray his surprise in any way, although it must have been great, in recognizing the ladies of the evening before. He did not look up until she addressed him, saying, "M. de Charny, these ladies experienced a natural desire, which I share with them, to hear from yourself all the details of this action of your ship." "Madam," replied the young officer, "I beg your majesty to spare me the recital, not from modesty, but from humanity. What I did as lieutenant, a dozen other officers doubtless wished to do, only I was the first to put it in execution, and it is not worthy being made the subject of narration to your majesty. Besides, the captain of La Severe is a brave officer, who on that day lost his presence of mind. Alas, madam, we all know that the most courageous are not always equally brave. He wanted but 10 minutes to recover himself. My determination not to surrender gave him the breathing time. His natural courage returned to him, and he showed himself the bravest of us all. Therefore I beg your majesty not to exaggerate the merit of my action, and thereby crush this deserving officer, who deplores incessantly the failing of few moments." "Right," said the queen, touched by these generous words. "You are a true gentleman and a Charney, and such I already know you to be." The young man colored crimson, and looked almost frightened at Andre, fearing what the queen's rash generosity might lead her to say. "For," continued the intrepid queen, "I must tell you all that this is not the first time I have heard of M. de Charney, who deserves to be known and admired by all ladies. And to show you that he is as indulgent to our sex as he is merciless to his enemies, I will relate a little history of him which does him the greatest honor." "Oh, madam," stammered the young man, who felt as if he would have given a year of his life to be back in the West Indies. "This, then, is it," continued the queen to her eager listeners. "Two ladies whom I know were detained out late and became embarrassed in the crowd. They ran a great risk. A real danger awaited them. M. de Charney happily passed by at the moment. He dispersed the crowd, and, although they were unknown to him, and it was impossible to recognize their rank, took them under his protection, and escorted them a long way, 10 miles from Paris, I believe." "Oh, your majesty exaggerates," said M. de Charney, laughing, and now quite reassured. "Well, we will call it 5, said the Count d'Artois, suddenly joining in the conversation. "Let it be 5, then, brother," said the queen. "But the most admirable part of the story is that M. de Charney did not seek even to know the names of these ladies whom he had served, but left them at the place where they wished to stop, and went away without even looking back, so that they escaped from his protection without even a moment's disquietude." All expressed their admiration. A knight of the Round Table could not have acted better. Her Majesty went on. "And so M. de Charney, as the king will doubtless take upon himself to reward and to suffer, I, for my part, wish to do something for the nephew of this great man." As she spoke, she held out her hand to him, and Charney, pale with joy, pressed his lips to this beautiful hand, while Philippe looked on from an obscure corner, pale with an opposite emotion. The voice of M. d'Artois interrupted the scene, saying loudly, "Ah, Provence, you come too late. You have missed a fine sight, the reception of M. de Suffren. Really, it was one that a Frenchman can never forget. How the devil did it happen that you were not here, you who are generally the punctual man par excellence?" M. de Provence bit his lips with vexation, and whispered to M. de Favres, his captain of the guards, "How does it come to pass that he is here?" "Ah, Monseigneur, I have been asking myself that question for the last hour, and have not yet found an answer." Chapter 13. The 100 Louis of the Queen. Now we have introduced the principal characters of this history to our readers, and have taken them both into the petite maison of the Comte d'Artois and into the King's palace at Versailles. We will return to that house in the Rue St. Claude, where we saw the Queen enter incognito with Mademoiselle Andre de Taverny. We left Madame de la Motte counting over and delighted with her 50 double Louis. Next to the pleasure of having them, she knew no greater than that of displaying them, and having no one else, she called Dame Clotilde, who was still in the antechamber. When she entered, "Come and look here," said her mistress. "Oh, madam," cried the old woman, clasping her hands in astonishment. "You are uneasy about your wages," said the countess. "Oh, madam, I never said that. I only asked madam if she could pay me, as I had received nothing for 3 months. Do you think there is enough there to pay you?" "Oh, madam, if I had all that, I should be rich for the rest of my life. But in what will madam spend all that?" "In everything. The first thing, I think, madam, will be to furnish the kitchen, for you will have good dinners cooked now." "Listen," said Madame de la Motte. "Someone knocks." "I did not hear it," said the old woman. "But I tell you that I did. So go at once." She hastily gathered up her money and put it into a drawer, murmuring, "Oh, if Providence will but send me another such a visitor." Then she heard the steps of a man below, but could not distinguish what he said. Soon, however, the door opened, and Clotilde came in with a letter. The countess examined it attentively and asked, "Was this brought by a servant?" "Yes, madam." "In livery?" "No, madam." "I know these arms, surely," said Jean to herself. "Who can it be from?" But the letter will soon show for itself. And opening it, she read, Madam, the person to whom you wrote will see you tomorrow evening. It will be agreeable to you to remain at home for that purpose. And that was all. I have written to so many people, thought the Countess. Is this a man or a woman? The writing is no guide, nor is the style. It might come from either. Who is it that uses these arms? Oh, I remember now. The arms of the Rohans. Yes, I wrote to M. de Guémeny and to M. de Rohan. It is one of them. But the shield is not quartered. It is therefore the cardinal. Ah, Monsieur de Rohan, the man of gallantry, the fine gentleman and the ambitious one. He will come to see Jean de la Motte. It will be agreeable to her. Oh, yes, M. de Rohan. It is very agreeable. A charitable lady who gives 100 louis may be received in a garret, freeze in my cold room, and suffer on my hard chair. But a clerical prince, a lady's man, that is quite another thing. We must have luxury to greet him. Then, turning to Clotilde, who was getting her bed ready, she said, Be sure to call me early tomorrow morning. And when she did retire to rest, so absorbed was she in her expectations and plans that it was nearly 3 o'clock before she fell asleep. Nevertheless, she was quite ready when Dame Clotilde called her according to her directions early in the morning, and had finished her toilet by 8 o'clock, although this day it consisted of an elegant silk dress, and her hair was elaborately dressed. She sent Clotilde for a coach, and ordered the man to drive to the Place Royale, where, under one of the arcades, was the shop of M. Fingret, an upholsterer and decorator, and who had furniture always ready for sale or hire. She entered his immense showrooms, of which the walls were hung with different tapestries, and the ceiling completely hidden by the number of chandeliers and lamps that hung from it. On the ground were furniture, carpets, and cornices of every fashion and description. Chapter 14. M. Fingret, Madame de la Motte, looking at all this, began to perceive how much she wanted. She wanted a drawing room to hold sofas and lounging chairs, a dining room for tables and sideboards, and a boudoir for Persian curtains, screens, and knickknacks. Above all, she wanted the money to buy all these things. But in Paris, whatever you cannot afford to buy, you can hire, and Madame de la Motte set her heart on a set of furniture covered in yellow silk, with gilt nails, which she thought would be very becoming to her dark complexion. But this furniture she felt sure would never go into her rooms on the 5th story. It would be necessary to hire the 3rd, which was composed of an antechamber, a dining room, small drawing room, and bedroom, so that she might, she thought, receive on this 3rd story the visits of the cardinal, and on the 5th those of ladies of charity. That is to say, receive in luxury those who give from ostentation, and in poverty those who only desire to give when it is needed. The Countess, having made all these reflections, turned to where M. Fingret himself stood, with his hat in his hand, waiting for her commands. Madame, said he in a tone of interrogation, advancing toward her. Madame la Comtesse de la Motte Valois, said Jean. At this high-sounding name M. Fingret bowed low and said, But there is nothing in this room worthy Madame la Comtesse's inspection. If Madame will take the trouble to step into the next one, she will see what is new and beautiful. Jean colored. All this had seemed so splendid to her, too splendid even to hope to possess it. And this high opinion of M. Fingret's concerning her perplexed her not a little. She regretted that she had not announced herself as a simple bourgeoise, but it was necessary to speak. So she said, I do not wish for new furniture. Madame has doubtless some friend's apartments to furnish? Just so, she replied. Will Madame then choose? Said M. Fingret, who did not care whether he sold new or old, as he gained equally by both. This set, said Jean, pointing to the yellow silk one. That is such a small set, Madame. Oh, the rooms are small. It is nearly new, as Madame may see. But the price? 800 francs. The price made the Countess tremble. And how was she to confess that a countess was content with second-hand things, and then could not afford to pay 800 francs for them? She therefore thought the best thing was to appear angry, and said, Who thinks of buying, sir? Who do you think would buy such old things? I only want to hire. Fingret made a grimace. His customer began gradually to lose her value in his eyes. She did not want to buy new things, only to hire old ones. You wish it for a year? He asked. No, only for a month. It is for someone coming from the country. It will be 100 francs a month. You jest? Surely, monsieur. Why, in 8 months I should pay the full price of it. Granted, Madame la Comtesse. Well, is not that too bad? I shall have the expense of doing it up again when you return it. Madame de la Motte reflected. 100 francs a month is very dear. Certainly. But either I can return at the end of that time and say it is too dear, or I shall then perhaps be in a situation to buy. I will take it, she said, with curtains a match. Yes, madam. And carpets. Here they are. What can you give me for another room? These oak chairs, this table with twisted legs, and green damask curtains. And for a bedroom, a large and handsome bed, a counterpane of velvet embroidered in rose color and silver, an excellent couch and blue curtains. And for my dressing room, a toilet table hung with Mechlin lace, chest of drawers with marquetry, sofa and chairs of tapestry. The whole came from the bedroom of Madame de Pompadour at Choisy. All this for what price? For a month? Yes, 400 francs. Come, Monsieur Fingret, do not take me for a grisette who is dazzled by your fine descriptions. Please to reflect that you are asking at the rate of 4,800 francs a year, and for that I can take a whole furnished house. You disgust me with the Place Royale. I am very sorry, madam. Prove it, then. I will only give half that price. Jean pronounced these words with so much authority that the merchant began again to think she might be worth conciliating. So be it, then, madam. And on one condition, M. Fingret. What, madam? That everything be arranged in its proper place by 3 o'clock. But consider, madam, it is now 10. Can you do it or not? Where must they go to? Rue St. Claude. Close by? Precisely. The upholsterer opened the door and called, Sylvain, Landry, Remy. 3 men answered the call. The carts and the trucks instantly. Remy, you shall take this yellow furniture. Sylvain, you take that for the dining room. And you, Landry, that for the bedroom. Here's the bill, madam. Shall I receipt it? Here are 6 double louis, she said. And you can give the change to these men if the order is completed in time. And, having given her address, she re-entered her coach. On her return, she engaged the 3rd floor, and in a few hours all was in order. The lodgings thus transformed, the windows cleaned and the fires lighted, Jean went again to her toilet, which she made as recherché as possible, and then to the last look at all the delights around her. Nothing had been forgotten. There were gilded branches from the walls for wax lights and glass lustres on each side of the mirror. Jean had also added flowers to complete the embellishment of the paradise in which she intended to receive His Eminence. She took care even to leave the door of the bedroom a little open, through which the light of a bright fire gave a glimpse of the luxuries within. All these preparations completed, she seated herself in a chair by the fire, with a book in her hand, listening eagerly to the sound of every carriage that passed. But 9, 10, and 11 o'clock struck, and no one came. Still she did not despair. It was not too late for a gallant prelate, who had probably been first to some supper, and would come to her from there. But at last 12 struck. No one appeared, the lights were burning low, and the old servant, after many lamentations over her new cap, had fallen asleep in her chair. At 12:30 Jean rose furious from her chair, looked out a window for the 100th time, and, seeing no one near, undressed herself and went to bed, refusing supper or to answer any of the remarks made to her by Clotilde. And on her sumptuous bed, under her beautiful curtains, she experienced no better rest than she had on the previous night. At last, however, her anger began a little to abate, and she commenced framing excuses for the cardinal. He had so much to occupy him. He must have been detained, and most potent of all, he had not yet seen her. She would not have been so easily consoled if he had broken the promise of a second visit. Chapter 15. The Cardinal de Rohan. The next evening Jean, not discouraged, renewed all her preparations of the night before, and on this occasion she had no time to grow impatient. For at 7 o'clock a carriage drove up to the door, from which a gentleman got out. At the sound of the doorbell Jean's heart beat so loud that you might almost have heard it. However, she composed herself as well as she could, and in a few minutes Clotilde opened the door and announced the person who had written the day before yesterday. "Let him come in," said Jean, and a gentleman dressed in silk and velvet and with a lofty carriage entered the room. Jean made a step forward and said, "To whom have I the honor of speaking?" "I am the Cardinal de Rohan," he replied, at which Madame de la Motte, feigning to be overwhelmed with the honor, courtesied, as though he were a king. Then she advanced an armchair for him and placed herself in another. The cardinal laid his hat on the table and, looking at Jean, began, "It is then true, mademoiselle—" "Madame," interrupted Jean. "Pardon me, I forgot. My husband is called de la Motte, monseigneur." "Oh, yes, a gendarme, is he not?" "Yes, sir. And you, madame, are Valois?" "I am, monseigneur." "A great name," said the cardinal, "but rare, believe extinct." "Not extinct, sir, since I bear it, and as I have a brother, Baron de Valois." "Recognized?" "That has nothing to do with it. Recognized or unrecognized, rich or poor, he is still Baron de Valois." "Madame, explain to me this descent. It interests me. I love heraldry." Jean repeated all that the reader already knows. The cardinal listened and looked. He did not believe either her story or her merit, but she was poor and pretty, so that, he said carelessly when she had finished, "You have really been unfortunate." "I do not complain, monseigneur. Indeed, I had heard a most exaggerated account of the difficulties of your position. This lodging is commodious and well furnished." "For Grisette, no doubt," replied Jean. "What? Do you call these rooms fit for Grisette?" "I do not think you can call them fit for a princess," replied Jean. "And you are a princess?" said he, in an ironical tone. "I was born a Valois, monseigneur." "As you were a Rohan," said Jean, with so much dignity that he felt a little touched by it. "Madam," said he, "I forgot that my first word should have been an apology. I wrote to you that I would come yesterday, but I had to go to Versailles to assist at the reception of M. de Suffren. Monseigneur does me too much honor in remembering me today, and my husband will more than ever regret the exile to which poverty compels him, since it prevents him from sharing this favor with me." "You live alone, madam?" asked the cardinal. "Absolutely alone. I should be out of place in all society, but that from which my poverty debars me." "The genealogists do not contest your claim?" "No, but what good does it do me?" "Madam," continued the cardinal, "I shall be glad to know in what I can serve you." "In nothing, monseigneur," she said. "How? In nothing? Pray be frank." "I cannot be more frank than I am." "You were complaining just now." "Certainly I complain." Well then, monseigneur, I see that you wish to bestow charity on me." "Oh, madam." "Yes, sir, I have taken charity, but I will do so no more. I have borne great humiliation." "Madam, you are wrong. There is no humiliation in misfortune. Not even with the name I bear? Would you beg M. de Rohan?" "I do not speak of myself," said he, with an embarrassment mingled with hauteur. "Monseigneur, I only know two ways of begging: in a carriage, or at a church door in velvet or in rags." "Well, just now, I did not expect the honor of this visit. I thought you had forgotten me." "Oh, you knew, then, that it was I who wrote? Were not your arms on the seal? However, you feign not to know me, because you did not do me the honor to announce yourself." "This pride pleases me," said the cardinal. "I had then," continued Jean, "despairing of seeing you, taken the resolution of throwing off all this flimsy parade, which covers my real poverty, and of going in rags, like other mendicants, to beg my bread from the passers-by. You are not at the end of your resources, I trust, madam?" Jean did not reply. "You have some property, even if it be mortgaged? Some family jewels? This, for example." And he pointed to a box with which the delicate fingers of the lady had been playing. "A singular box, upon my word. Will you permit me to look?" "Oh, a portrait," he continued, with a look of great surprise. "Do you know the original of this portrait?" asked Jean. "It is that of Maria Theresa." "Of Maria Theresa?" "Yes, the Empress of Austria." "Really?" cried Jean. "Are you sure, monseigneur?" "Where did you get it?" he asked. "From a lady who came the day before yesterday." "To see you?" "Yes." The cardinal examined the box with minute attention. "There were two ladies," continued Jean, "and one of them gave you this box," said he, with evident suspicion. "No, she dropped it here." The cardinal remained thoughtful for some time, and then said, "What was the name of this lady? I beg pardon for being inquisitive. Indeed, it is a somewhat strange question. Indiscreet, perhaps, but not strange. Yes, very strange, for if I had known her name, I should have returned it long before this." "Then you know not who she is?" "I only know she is the head of some charitable house." "In Paris?" "No, in Versailles." "From Versailles, the head of a charitable house." "Monseigneur, I accept charity from ladies. That does not so much humiliate a poor woman. And this lady, who had heard of my wants, left 100 louis on my table when she went away." 100 louis, said the cardinal in surprise. Then, fearing to offend, he added, "I am not astonished, madam, that they should give you such a sum. You merit, on the contrary, all the solicitude of charitable people, and your name makes it a duty to help you. It is only the title of the Sister of Charity that surprised me. They are not in the habit of giving such donations. Could you describe this lady to me?" "Not easily, sir." "How so, since she came here?" "Yes, but she probably did not wish to be recognized, for she hid her face as much as possible in her hood, and was besides enveloped in furs." "Well, but you saw something?" "My impressions were that she had blue eyes and a small mouth, though the lips were rather thick." "Tall or short?" "Of middle height." "Her hands?" "Perfect." "Her throat?" "Long and slender." "Her expression?" "Severe and noble. But you, perhaps, know this lady, Monseigneur?" "Why should you think so, madam?" "From a manner in which you question me. Besides, there is a sympathy between the doers of good works." "No, madam, I do not know her." "But, sir, if you had some suspicion." "How should I?" "Oh, from this portrait, perhaps." "Yes, certainly the portrait," said the cardinal, rather uneasily. "Well, sir, this portrait you still believe to be that of Maria Theresa?" "I believe so, certainly." "Then you think that you have received a visit from some German lady who has founded one of these houses." But it was evident that the cardinal doubted, and he was pondering how this box, which he had seen 100 times in the hands of the Queen, came into the possession of this woman. Had the Queen really been to see her? If she had been, was she indeed unknown to Jean? Or, if not, why did she try to hide the knowledge from him? If the Queen had really been there, it was no longer a poor woman he had to deal with, but a princess succored by a queen who bestowed her gifts in person. Jean saw that the cardinal was thoughtful and even suspicious of her. She felt uneasy and knew not what to say. At last, however, he broke the silence by saying, "And the other lady? Oh, I could see her perfectly. She is tall and beautiful, with a determined expression and a brilliant complexion." "And the other lady did not name her?" "Yes, once, but by her Christian name." "What was it?" "André." "André?" repeated the cardinal with a start. This name put an end to all his doubts. It was known that the Queen had gone to Paris on that day with Mademoiselle de Taverny. It was evident, also, that Jean had no intention of deceiving him. She was telling all she knew. Still, he would try one more proof. "Countess," he said, "one thing astonishes me, that you have not addressed yourself to King. But, sir, I have sent him 20 petitions." "Without result?" "Yes." "Well, then, the Princes of the Blood, Le Duc d'Orleans, is charitable, and often likes to do what the king refuses. I have tried him, equally fruitlessly." "That astonishes me." "Oh, when one is poor and not supported by anyone. There is still the Comte d'Artois. Sometimes dissipated men do more generous actions than charitable ones. It is the same story with him. But the princesses, the aunts of the king, Madame Elizabeth particularly, would refuse assistance to no one. It is true, Monseigneur, Her Royal Highness, to whom I wrote, promised to receive me. But I know not why, after having received my husband, I could never get any more notice from her." "It is strange, certainly," said the cardinal, Then, as if the thought had just struck him, he cried, "Ah, mon Dieu, but we are forgetting the person to whom you should have addressed yourself first of all." "Whom do you mean?" "To the dispenser of all favors, she who never refuses help where it is deserved, to the Queen." "Have you seen her?" "No," answered Jean. "You have never presented your petition to the Queen?" "Never." "You have not tried to obtain an audience of her?" "I have tried, but failed." "Have you tried to throw yourself in her way, that she might remark you?" "No, monseigneur." "But that is very strange. I have only been twice to Versailles, and then saw but two persons there. One was Dr. Lewis, who had attended my poor father at the Hotel Dieu, and the other was M. le Baron de Taverny, to whom I had an introduction." "What did M. de Taverny say to you?" "He might have brought you to the Queen. He told me that I was very foolish to bring forward as a claim to the benevolence of the king a relationship which would be sure to displease him, as nobody likes poor relations. I recognize the egotistical and rude old baron. Well," continued he, "I will conduct you myself to Versailles, and will open the doors for you." "Oh, monseigneur, how good you are!" cried Jean, overwhelmed with joy. The cardinal approached her and said, "It is impossible but that before long all must interest themselves in you." "Alas, monseigneur," said Jean with a sigh, "do you think so?" "I am sure of it." "I fear you flatter me," she said, looking earnestly at him, for she could hardly believe in his sudden change of manner. He had been so cold and suspicious at first. This look had no small effect on the cardinal. He began to think he had never met a woman prettier or more attractive. "Ah, my foi," said he to himself, with the eternally scheming spirit of a man used to diplomacy. "It would be too extraordinary and too fortunate if I had met at once an honest woman with the attractions of a scheming one, and found in this poverty an able coadjutrix to my desires. Monseigneur, the silence you keep every now and then disquiets me." "Why so, Countess?" "Because a man like you only fails in politeness to two kinds of women." "Mon Dieu, Countess, you frighten me. What are you about to say?" And he took her hand. "I repeat it," said she. "With women that you love too much, or with women whom you do not esteem enough to be polite to." "Countess, you make me blush. Have I, then, failed in politeness towards you?" "Rather so, monseigneur. And yet you cannot love me too much, and I have given you no cause to despise me." "Oh, Countess, you speak as if you were angry with me." "No, monseigneur, you have not yet merited my anger, and I never will, madam. From this day, in which I have had the pleasure of making your acquaintance, my solicitude for you will not cease." "Oh, sir, do not speak to me of your protection." "Oh, mon Dieu, I should humiliate myself, not you, in mentioning such a thing." And he pressed her hand, which he continued to hold, to his lips. She tried to withdraw it, but he said, "Only politeness, madam," and she let it remain. "To know," said she, "that I shall occupy a place, however small, in the mind of a man so eminent and so busy, would console me for a year. Let us hope the consolation will last longer than that, Countess." "Well, perhaps so, monseigneur. I have confidence in you, because I feel that you are capable of appreciating a mind like mine, adventurous, brave, and pure, in spite of my poverty and of the enemies which my position has made me. Your eminence will, I am sure, discover all the good that is in me, and be indulgent to all the rest. We are, then, warm friends, madam." And he advanced toward her, but his arms were a little more extended than the occasion required. She avoided him and said, laughing, "It must be a friendship among three, Cardinal." "Among three?" "Doubtless, for there exists in exile a poor gendarme who is called de la Motte." "Oh, Countess, what a deplorably good memory you have. I must speak to you of him, that you may not forget him. Do you know why I did not speak of him, Countess?" "No, pray tell me." "Because he will speak enough for himself. Husbands never let themselves be forgotten. We shall hear that le Comte de la Motte found it good, or found it bad, that the Cardinal de Rohan came 2, 3, or 4 times a week to visit his wife." "Ah, but will you come so often, monseigneur?" "Without that, where would be our friendship? For times, I should have said 6 or 7. Jean laughed. I should not indeed wonder in that case if people did talk of it. Oh, but we can easily prevent them. How? Quite easily. The people know me. Certainly, Monseigneur, but you they have the misfortune not to know. Well, therefore, if you would— What, sir? Come out instead of me. Come to your hotel, Monseigneur. You would go to see a minister. Oh, a minister is not a man. You are adorable, Countess. But I did not speak of my hotel. I have a house. Oh, a petite maison. No, a house of yours. A house of mine, Cardinal. Indeed, I did not know it. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, you shall have the address. The Countess blushed. The Cardinal took her hand again and imprinted another kiss upon it, at once bold, respectful, and tender. They then bowed to each other. Light Monseigneur down, said the Countess, and he went away. Well, thought she, I have made a great step in the world. Come, said the Cardinal to himself as he drove off. I think I have killed 2 birds with 1 stone. This woman has too much talent not to catch the Queen as she has caught me. Chapter 16. Mesmer and S.T. Martin. The fashionable study in Paris at this time, and that which engrossed most of those who had no business to attend to, was mesmerism, a mysterious science, badly defined by its discoverers, who did not wish to render it too plain to the eyes of the people. Dr. Mesmer, who had given to it his own name, was then in Paris, as we have already heard from Marie Antoinette. This Dr. Mesmer deserves a few words from us, as his name was then in all mouths. He had brought this science from Germany, the land of mysteries, in 1777. He had previously made his debut there, by a theory on the influence of planets. He had endeavored to establish that these celestial bodies, through the same power by which they attract each other, exercise an influence over living bodies, and particularly over the nervous system, by means of subtle fluid with which the air is impregnated. But this first theory was too abstract. One must, to understand it, be initiated into all the sciences of Galileo or Newton, and it would have been necessary, for this had become popular, that the nobility should have been transformed into a body of savants. He therefore abandoned the system, and took up that of the lodestone, which was then attracting great attention, people fancying that this wonderful power was efficacious in curing illnesses. Unhappily for him, however, he found a rival in this already established in Vienna. Therefore, he once more announced that he abandoned mineral magnetism and intended to effect his cures through animal magnetism. This, although a new name, was not in reality a new science. It was as old as the Greeks and Egyptians, and had been preserved in traditions, and revived every now and then by the sorcerers of the 13th, 14th, and 15th centuries, many of whom had paid for their knowledge with their lives. Urbain Grandier was nothing but an animal magnetizer, and Joseph Balsamo, we have seen practicing it. Mesmer only condensed this knowledge into a science, and gave a name. He then communicated his system to the scientific academies of Paris, London, and Berlin. The 2 first did not answer him, and the 3rd said that he was mad. He came to France and took out the hands of Dr. Stork and the oculist Wenzel, a young girl 17 years old, who had a complaint of the liver and guttus arena, and after 3 months of his treatment, restored her health and her sight. This cure convinced many people, and among them a doctor called Deslon, who, from his enemy, became his pupil. From this time his reputation gradually increased. The academy declared itself against him, but the court for him. At last the government offered him, in the king's name, an income for life of 20,000 francs to give lectures in public, and 10,000 more to instruct 3 persons, who should be chosen by them, in his system. Mesmer, however, indignant at the royal parsimony, refused, and set out for the spa waters with one of his patients. But while he was gone, Deslon, his pupil, possessor of the secret which he had refused to sell for 30,000 francs a year, opened a public establishment for the treatment of patients. Mesmer was furious, and exhausted himself in complaints and menaces. One of his patients, however, Ambergas, conceived the idea of forming a company. They raised a capital of 340,000 francs, on the condition that the secret should be revealed to the shareholders. It was a fortunate time. The people, having no great public events to interest them, entered eagerly into every new amusement and occupation, and this mysterious theory possessed no little attraction. professing, as it did, to cure invalids, restore mind of fools, and amuse the wise. Everywhere Mesmer was talked of. What had he done? On whom had he performed these miracles? To what great lord had he restored sight? To what lady worn out with dissipation had he renovated the nerves? To what young girl had he shown the future in a magnetic trance? The future, that word of ever-entrancing interest and curiosity. Voltaire was dead. There was no one left to make France laugh, except perhaps Beaumarchais, who was still more bitter than his master. Rousseau was dead, and with him the sect of religious philosophers. War had generally occupied strongly the minds of the French people, but now the only war in which they were engaged was in America, where people fought for what they called independence, and what the French called liberty. And even this distant war in another land and affecting another people was on the point of termination. Therefore, they felt more interest just now in Mesmer, who was near, than in Washington or Lord Cornwallis, who were so far off. Mesmer's only rival in the public interest was St. Martin, the professor of spiritualism, as Mesmer was a materialism, and who professed to cure souls, as he did bodies. Imagine an atheist with religion more attractive than religion itself, a republican full of politeness and interest for kings, a gentleman of the privileged classes tender and solicitous for the people, endowed with the most startling eloquence, attacking all the received religions of the earth. Imagine Epicurus in white powder, embroidered coat, and silk stockings, not content with endeavoring to overturn a religion in which he did not believe, but also attacking all existing governments, and promulgating the theory that all men are equal, or, to use his own words, that all intelligent beings are kings. Imagine the effect of all this in society as it then was, without fixed principles or steady guides, and how it was all assisting to light the fire with which France not long after began to consume herself. Chapter 17. The Bucket. We have endeavored to give an idea in the last chapter of the interest and enthusiasm which drew such crowds of people to see Mesmer perform publicly his wonderful experiments. The king, as we know, had given permission to the queen to go and see what all Paris was talking of, accompanied by one of the princesses. It was 2 days after the visit of M. de Rohan to the countess. The weather was fine, and the thaw was complete, and hundreds of sweepers were employed in cleaning away the snow from the streets. The clear blue sky was just beginning to be illumined by its first stars, when Madame de la Motte, elegantly dressed, and presenting every appearance of opulence, arrived in a coach, which Clotilde had carefully chosen as the best looking at the place Vendôme, and stopped before a brilliantly lighted house. It was that of Dr. Mesmer. Numbers of other carriages were waiting at the door, and a crowd of people had collected to see the patients arrive and depart, who seemed to derive much pleasure when they saw some rich invalid, enveloped in furs and satins, carried in by footmen, from the evident proof it afforded that God made men healthy or unhealthy, without reference to their purses or their genealogies. A universal murmur would arise when they recognized some duke paralyzed in an arm or leg, or some marshal whose feet refused their office, less in consequence of military fatigues and marches than from halts made with the ladies of the opera or the Comédie Italienne. Sometimes it was a lady carried in by her servants with drooping head and languid eye, who, weakened by late hours and an irregular life, came to demand from Dr. Mesmer the health she had vainly sought to regain elsewhere. Many of these ladies were as well known as the gentlemen, but a great many escaped the public gaze, especially on this evening, by wearing masks. For it was a ball at the opera that night, and many of them intended to drive straight there when they left the doctor's house. Through this crowd, Madame de la Motte walked erect and firm, also with a mask on, and elicited only the exclamation, "This one does not look ill at all events." Ever since the cardinal's visit, the attention with which he had examined the box and portrait had been on Jean's mind, and she could not but feel that all his graciousness commenced after seeing it, and she therefore felt proportionate curiosity to learn more about it. First, she had gone to Versailles to inquire at all the houses of charity about German ladies, but there were there perhaps 150 or 200, and all Jean's inquiries about the 2 ladies who had visited her had proved fruitless. In vain she repeated that one of them was called André. No one knew a German lady of that name, which indeed was not German. Baffled in this, she determined to try elsewhere, and having heard much of M. Mesmer and the wonderful secrets revealed through him, determined upon going there. Many were the stories of this kind in circulation. Madame de Duras had recovered a child who had been lost, Madame de Chanteau, an English dog, not much bigger than her fist, for which she would have given all the children in the world, and M. de Vaudreuil a lock of hair, which he would have bought back with half his fortune. All these revelations had been made by clairvoyance after the magnetic operations of Dr. Mesmer. Those who came to see him, after traversing the antechambers, were admitted into a large room, for which the darkened and hermetically closed windows excluded light and air. In the middle of this room, under a luster which gave but a feeble light, was a vast unornamented tank, filled with water impregnated with sulfur, and to the cover which was fastened an iron ring. Attached to this ring was a long chain, the object of which we shall presently see. All the patients were seated round the room, men and women indiscriminately. Then a valet, taking the chain, wound it round the limbs of the patients, so that they might all feel at the same time the effects of the electricity contained in the tank. They were then directed to touch each other in some way, either by the shoulder, the elbow, or the feet, and each was to take in his hand a bar of iron, which was also connected with the tank, and to place it to the heart, head, or whatever was the seat of the malady. When they were all ready, a soft and pleasing strain of music, executed by invisible performers, was heard. Among the most eager of the crowd, on the evening of which we speak, was a young, distinguished-looking and beautiful woman, with a graceful figure and rather showily dressed, who pressed the iron to her heart with wonderful energy, rolling her beautiful eyes, and beginning to show, in the trembling of her hands, the first effects of the electric fluid. As she constantly threw back her head, resting on the cushions of her chair, all around could see perfectly her pale but beautiful face and her white throat. Many seemed to look at her with great astonishment, and a general whispering commenced among those who surrounded her. Madame de la Motte was one of the most curious of the party, and of all she saw around her, nothing attracted her attention so much as this young lady, and after gazing earnestly at her for some time, she at last murmured, "Oh, it is she, there is no doubt. It is the lady who came to see me the other day." And convinced that she was not mistaken, she advanced towards her, congratulated herself that chance had effected for her what she had so long been vainly trying to accomplish. But at this moment the young lady closed her eyes, contracted her mouth, and began to beat the air feebly with her hands, which hands, however, did not seem to Jean the white and beautiful ones she had seen in her room a few days before. The patients now began to grow excited under the influence of the fluid. Men and women began to utter sighs and even cries, moving convulsively their heads, arms, and legs. Then a man suddenly made his appearance. No one had seen him enter. You might have fancied he came out of the tank. He was dressed in a lilac robe and held in his hand a long wand, which he several times dipped into mysterious tank. Then he made a sign. The doors opened, and 20 robust servants entered, and seizing such of the patients as began to totter on their seats, carried them into an adjoining room. While this was going on, Madame de la Motte heard a man who had approached near the young lady before mentioned, and who was in a perfect paroxysm of excitement, say in a loud voice, "It is surely she." Jean was about to ask him who she was, when her attention was drawn to 2 ladies who were just entering, followed by a man who, though disguised as a bourgeois, had still the appearance of a servant. The tournure of one of these ladies struck Jean so forcibly that she made a step toward them, when a cry from the young woman near her startled everyone. The same man whom Jean had heard speak before now called out, "But look, gentlemen, it is the Queen." "The Queen!" cried many voices in surprise. "The Queen here? The Queen in that state? Impossible." "But look," said he again, "do you know the Queen or not?" "Indeed," said many, "the resemblance is incredible." "Monsieur," said Jean to the speaker, who was a stout man, with quick observant eyes, "did you say the Queen?" "Oh, madam, there is no doubt of it." "And where is she?" "Why, that young lady that you see there on the violet cushions, and in such a state that she cannot moderate her transports, is the Queen." "But on what do you found such an idea, monsieur?" "Simply because it is the Queen." And he left Jean to go and spread his news among the rest. She turned from the almost revolting spectacle, and going near to the door, found herself face to face with the 2 ladies she had seen enter. Scarcely had she seen the elder one, than she uttered a cry of surprise. "What is the matter?" asked the lady. Jean took off her mask and asked, Do you recognize me, madam? The lady made, but quickly suppressed, a movement of surprise and said, No, madam. Well, madam, I recognize you and will give you a proof. And she drew the box from her pocket, saying, You left this at my house. But supposing this to be true, what makes you so agitated? I am agitated by the danger that your majesty is incurring here. Explain yourself. Not before you put on this mask. And she offered hers to Queen, who, however, did not take it. I beg your majesty, there is not an instant to lose. The Queen put on the mask. And now, pray come away, added Jean. But why? Said the Queen. Your majesty has not been seen by anyone. I believe not. So much the better. The Queen mechanically moved to the door, but said again, Will you explain yourself? Will not your majesty believe your humble servant for present, that you were running a great risk? But what risk? I will have the honor to tell your majesty whenever you will grant me an hour's audience, but it would take too long now. And seeing that the Queen looked displeased, Pray, madam, said she, turning to Princess Lamballe, join your petitions to mine that the Queen should leave this place immediately. I think we had better, madam, said the princess. Well, then, I will, answered the Queen. Then, turning to Madame de la Motte, You ask for an audience, she said. I beg for that honor, that I may explain this conduct to your majesty. Well, bring this box with you, and you shall be admitted. Laurent, the porter, shall have orders to do so. Then going into the street, she called in German, Kommt der Weber. A carriage immediately drove up. They got in and were immediately out of sight. When they were gone, Madame de la Motte said to herself, I have done right in this. For the rest, I must consider. Chapter 18. Mademoiselle Oliva. During this time, the man who had pointed out the fictitious queen to the people touched on the shoulder another man who stood near him in a shabby dress and said, For you, who are a journalist, here's a fine subject for an article. How so? Replied the man. Shall I tell you? Certainly. The danger of being governed by a king who is governed by a queen who indulges in such paroxysms as these. The journalist laughed. But the Bastille, he said. Pooh, nonsense. I do not mean you to write it out plainly. Who can interfere with you if you relate the history of Prince Silu and the Princess of Teniatna, Queen of Narfek? What do you say to that? It is an admirable idea, said the journalist. And I do not doubt that a pamphlet called The Paroxysms of the Princess of Teniatna at the House of the Faker Remsum would have a great success. I believe it also. Then go and do it. The journalist pressed the hand of the unknown. Shall I send you some copies, sir? I will with pleasure, if you will give me your name. Certainly, the idea pleases me. What is the usual circulation of your journal? 2,000. Then do me a favor. Take these 50 louis and publish 6,000. Oh, sir, you overwhelm me. May I not know the name of such a generous patron of literature? You shall know when I call for 1,000 copies. At 2 francs each, are they not? Will they be ready in a week? I will work night and day, monsieur. Let it be amusing. It should make all Paris die with laughing, except one person. Who will weep over it? Apropos, date the publication from London. Sir, I am your humble servant. And the journalist took his leave, with his 50 louis in his pocket, highly delighted. The unknown again turned to look at the young woman, who had now subsided into a state of exhaustion, and looked beautiful as she lay there. Really, he said to himself, the resemblance is frightful. God had his motives in creating it, and has no doubt condemned her to whom the resemblance is so strong. While he made these reflections, she rose slowly from the midst of the cushions, assisting herself with the arm of an attendant, and began to arrange her somewhat disordered toilet, and then traversed the rooms, confronting boldly the looks of the people. She was somewhat astonished, however, when she found herself saluted with deep and respectful bows by a group which had already been assembled by the indefatigable stranger, who kept whispering, Never mind, gentlemen, never mind. She is still the Queen of France. Let us salute her. She next entered the courtyard and looked about for a coach or a chair, but, seeing none, was about to set off on foot when a footman approached and said, Shall I call Madame's carriage? I have none, she replied. Madame came in a coach? Yes. From the Rue Dauphine? Yes. I will take Madame home. Do so then, said she, although somewhat surprised at the offer. The man made a sign and a carriage drove up. He opened the door for her and then said to the coachman, to the Rue Dauphine. They set off, and the young woman, who much approved of this mode of transit, regretted she had not further to go. They soon stopped, however. The footman handed her out and immediately drove off again. Really, said she to herself, this is an agreeable adventure. It is very gallant of M. Mesmer. Oh, I am very tired, and he must have foreseen that. He is a great doctor. Saying these words, she mounted to the second story and knocked at a door, which was quickly opened by an old woman. Is supper ready, mother? Yes, and growing cold. Has he come? No, not yet, but the gentleman has. What gentleman? He who was to speak to you this evening. To me? Yes. This colloquy took place in a kind of antechamber opening into a room, which was furnished with old curtains of yellow silk, chairs of green Utrecht velvet, not very new, and an old yellow sofa. She opened the door, and, going in, saw a man seated on the sofa whom she did not know in the least, although we do, for it was the same man who we have seen taking so much interest in her at Mesmer's. She had not time to question him, for he began immediately. I know all that you're going to ask, and will tell you without asking. You are Mademoiselle Oliva, are you not? Yes, sir. A charming person, highly nervous, and much taken by the system of M. Mesmer. I have just left there. All this, however, your beautiful eyes are saying plainly, does not explain what brings me here. You are right, sir. Will you not do me the favor to sit down, or I shall be obliged to get up also, and that is an uncomfortable way of talking. Really, sir, you have very extraordinary manners. Mademoiselle, I saw you just now at M. Mesmer's, and found you to be all I could wish. Sir, do not alarm yourself, mademoiselle. I do not tell you that I found you charming. That would seem like a declaration of love, and I have no such intention. I know that you are accustomed to have yourself called beautiful, but I, who also think so, have other things to talk to you about. Really, sir, the manner in which you speak to me. Do not get angry before you have heard me. Is there anyone that can overhear us? No, sir, no one. But still. Then, if no one can hear, we can converse at our ease. What do you say to a little partnership between us? Really, sir. Do not misunderstand. I do not say liaison. I say partnership. I am not talking of love, but of business. What kind of business? Said Oliva, with growing curiosity. What do you do all day? Why, I do nothing, or at least as little as possible. You have no occupation. So much the better. Do you like walking? Very much. To see sights and go to balls? Excessively. To live well? Above all things. If I gave you 25 louis a month, would you refuse me? Sir, my dear Mademoiselle Oliva, now you are beginning to doubt me again, and it was agreed that you were to listen quietly. I will say 50 louis if you like. I like 50 louis better than 25, but what I like better than either is to be able to choose my own lover. Morbleu, but I have already told you that I do not desire to be your lover. Set your mind at ease about that. Then what am I to do to earn my 50 louis? You must receive me at your house, and always be glad to see me. Walk out with me whenever I desire it, and come to me whenever I send for you. But I have a lover, sir. Well, dismiss him. Oh, Beausire cannot be sent away like that. I will help you. No, I love him. Oh, a little. That is just a little too much. I cannot help it. Then he may stop. You are very obliging. Well, but do my conditions suit you? Yes, if you have told me all. I believe I have said all I wish to say now. On your honor? On my honor. Very well. Then that is settled. And here's the first month in advance. He held out the money, and, as she still seemed to hesitate a little, slipped it himself into her pocket. Scarcely had he done so, when a knock at the door made Oliva run to the window. Good God, she cried. Escape quickly. Here he is. Who? Beausire, my lover. Be quick, sir. Nonsense. He will half murder you. Bah! Do you hear how he knocks? Well, open the door. And he sat down again on the sofa, saying to himself, I must see this fellow and judge what he is like. The knocks became louder and mingled with oaths. Go, mother, and open the door, cried Oliva. As for you, sir, if any harm happens to you, it is your own fault. Chapter 19. Monsieur Beausire. Oliva ran to meet a man, who came in swearing furiously and in a frightful passion. Come, Beausire, said she, apparently not all frightened. Let me alone, cried he, shaking her off brutally. Ah, I see it was because there is a man here that the door was not opened. And as the visitor remained perfectly still, he advanced furiously towards him, saying, Will you answer me, sir? What do you want to know, my dear M. Beausire? What are you doing here, and who are you? I am a very quiet man, and I was simply talking to Madame. That was all, said Oliva. Will you hold your tongue? Bawled Beausire. Now, said the visitor, do not be so rude to Madame, who has done nothing to deserve it. And if you are in a bad temper... Yes, I am. He must have lost at cards, murmured Oliva. I am cleaned out morte diable, cried Beausire. But you, sir, will do me the favor to leave this room. But, Beausire, diable, if you do not go immediately, it will be the worse for you. You did not tell me, mademoiselle, that he was troubled with these fits. Good heavens! What ferocity! Beausire, exasperated, drew his sword and roared. If you do not move, I will pin you to the sofa. Really, it is impossible to be more disagreeable, said the visitor, also drawing a small sword, which they had not before seen. Oliva uttered piercing shrieks. Oh, mademoiselle, pray be quiet, said he, or two things will happen. First, you'll stun him, Beausire, and he will get killed. Secondly, the watch will come up and carry you straight off to St. Lazare. Oliva ceased her cries. The scene that ensued was curious. Beausire, furious with rage, was making wild and unskillful passes at his adversary, who, still seated on the sofa, parried him with the utmost ease, laughing immoderately all the time. Beausire began to grow tired and also frightened, for he felt that if this man, who was now content to stand on the defensive, were to attack him in his turn, he should be done for in a moment. Suddenly, however, by a skillful movement, the stranger sent Beausire's sword flying across the room. It went through an open window and fell into the street. O.M. Beausire, said he, you should take more care. If your sword falls on anyone, it will kill him. Beausire ran down at his utmost speed to fetch his sword, and meanwhile Oliva, seizing the hand of the victor, said, Oh, sir, you are very brave, but as soon as you are gone, Beausire will beat me. Then I will remain. Oh, no, when he beats me, I beat him in return, and I always get the best of it, because I am not obliged to take any care. So if you would but go, sir... But, my dear, if I go now, I shall meet Beausire on the stairs. Probably the combat will recommence, and as I shall not feel inclined to stay on the staircase, I shall have to kill Beausire. Mon Dieu, it is true. Well, then, to avoid that I will remain here. No, sir, I entreat. Go up to the next story, and as soon as he returns to this room, I will lock the door and take the key, and you can walk away while we fight it out. You are a charming girl. Au revoir. Till when? Tonight, if you please. Tonight? Are you mad? Not at all, but there is a ball at the opera tonight. But it is now midnight. That does not matter. I should want a domino. Beausire will fetch it when you have beaten him. You are right, said Oliva, laughing. And here are 10 louis to buy it with. Adieu, and thanks. And she pushed him out, saying, Quick, he is coming back. But if by chance he should beat you, how will you let me know? She reflected a moment. You have a servant? Yes. Send him here, and let him wait under the window till I let a note fall. I will. Adieu. And he went upstairs. Oliva drowned the sound of his footsteps by calling loudly to Beausire, "Are you coming back, madman?" For he did not seem in much hurry to re-encounter his formidable adversary. At last, however, he came up. Oliva was standing outside the door. She pushed him in, locked it, and put the key in her pocket. Before the stranger left the house, he heard the noise of the combat begin, and both voices loud and furious. "There is no doubt," said he to himself, "that this woman knows how to take care of herself." His carriage was waiting for him at the corner of the street. But before getting in, he spoke to the footman, who thereupon stationed himself within view of Mademoiselle Oliva's windows. Chapter 20. Gold. We must now return to the interior of the room. Beausire was much surprised to see Oliva lock the door, and still more so not to see his adversary. He began to feel triumphant, for if he was hiding from him, he must, he thought, be afraid of him. He therefore began to search for him. But Oliva talked so loud and fast that he advanced towards her to try and stop her, but was received with a box on the ear, which he returned in kind. Oliva replied by throwing a china vase at his head, and his answer was a blow with a cane. She, furious, flew at him and seized him by the throat, and he, trying to free himself, tore her dress. Then, with a cry, she pushed him from her with such force that he fell in the middle of the room. He began to get tired of this, so he said, without commencing another attack, "You are a wicked creature. You ruin me. On the contrary, it is you who ruin me." "Oh, I ruin her. She was nothing. Say that I have nothing now. Say that you have eaten and drank and played away all that I had. You reproach me with my poverty. Yes, for it comes from your vices. Do not talk of vices. It only remained for you to take a lover. And what do you call all those wretches who sit by you in the tennis court where you play? I play to live. And nicely you succeed. We should die of hunger from your industry. And you, with yours, are obliged to cry if you get your dress torn, because you have nothing to buy another with. I do better than you at all events." And, putting her hand in her pocket, she drew out some gold and threw it across the room. When Beausire saw this, he remained stupefied. "Louis," cried he at last. She took out some more and threw them in his face. "Oh," cried he, "Oliva's become rich." "This is what my industry brings in," said she, pushing it with her foot as he kneeled down to pick up the gold. 16, 17, 18, counted he joyfully. "Miserable wretch," said Oliva. 19, 20, 21, 22. "Coward." 23, 24, 25. "Infamous wretch." He got up. "And so, mademoiselle, you've been saving money when you kept me without necessaries. You let me go about in an old hat, darn stockings, and patched clothes, while you had all this money. Where does it come from? From the sale of my things?" "Scoundrel," murmured Oliva, looking at him with contempt. "But I pardon your avarice," continued he. "You would have killed me just now," said Oliva. "Then I should have been right. Now I should be wrong to do it. Why, if you please? Because now you contribute to our menage. You are a base wretch. My little Oliva, give me back my money. Oh, my darling. If you do not, I will pass your own sword through your body. Oliva, will you give it? Oh, you will not take it away? Ah, coward. You beg. You solicit for the fruits of my bad conduct. That is what they call a man. I have always despised you. I gave to you when I could, Nicole. Do not call me Nicole. Pardon, then, Oliva, but is it not true? Fine presents, certainly. Some silver buckles, 6 louis d'or, 2 silk dresses, and 3 embroidered handkerchiefs. It is a great deal for a soldier. Hold your tongue. The buckles you stole from someone else. The louis d'or you borrowed and never returned. The silk dresses. Oliva, Oliva, give me back my money. What shall I give you instead? Double the quantity. Well, said the rogue gravely, I will go to the Rue de Bussy and play with it, and bring you back, not the double, but the quintuple. And he made 2 steps to the door. She caught him by the coat. There, said he, you have torn my coat. Never mind, you shall have a new one. That will be 6 louis. Oliva, Luckily, at the Rue de Bussy they are not particular about dress. Oliva seized hold of the other tail and tore it right off. Beausire became furious. "Mort de tous les diables," cried he. "You will make me kill you at last. You are tearing me to bits. Now I cannot go out. On the contrary, you must go out immediately. Without a coat? Put on your greatcoat. It is all in holes. Then do not put it on, but you must go out." "I will not." She took out of her pocket another handful of gold and put it into his hands. Beausire kneeled at her feet and cried, "Order, and I will obey. Go quickly to the Capucin, Rue de Seine, where they sell dominoes for ball masks, and buy me one complete, mask and all." "Good. And one for yourself, black, but mine white, and I only give you 20 minutes to do it in. Are we go to ball?" "Yes, if you're obedient." "Oh, always." "Go, then, and show your zeal." "I run, but the money? You have 25 louis that you picked up." "Oh, Oliva, I thought you meant to give me those." "You shall have more another time, but if I give you them now, you will stop and play." "She is right," said he to himself. "That is just what I intended to do." And he set off. As soon as he was gone, Oliva wrote rapidly these words. The piece is signed and the ball decided on. At 2 o'clock we shall be at the opera. I shall wear a white domino with a blue ribbon on my left shoulder. Then, rolling this round a bit of the broken vase, she went to the window and threw it out. The valet picked it up and made off immediately. In less than half an hour, Beausire returned, followed by 2 men bringing, at the cost of 18 louis, 2 beautiful dominoes, such as were only turned out at Capucin, makers to Her Majesty and the Maids of Honor. Chapter 21. L.A. Petite Maison. We left Madame de la Motte at M. Mesmer's door, watching the Queen's carriage as it drove off. Then she went home, for she also intended to put on a domino and indulge herself by going to the opera. But a contretemps awaited her. A man was waiting at her door with a note from the Cardinal de Rohan. She opened it and read as follows: "Madame la Comtesse, you have doubtless not forgotten that we have business together. Even if you have a short memory, I never forget what has pleased me. I shall have the honor to wait for you where my messenger will conduct you, if you please to come." Jean, although rather vexed, immediately re-entered the coach and told the footman to get on the box with the coachman. 10 minutes sufficed to bring her to the entrance of the Faubourg Saint-Antoine, where in a hollow and completely hidden by great trees was one of those pretty houses built in the time of Louis XV, with all the taste of the 16th with the comfort of the 18th century. Oh, a petite maison," said she to herself. "It is very natural on the part of M. de Rohan, but very humiliating for Valois. But patience." She was led from room to room till she came to a small dining room, fitted up with exquisite taste. There she found the cardinal waiting for her. He was looking over some pamphlets, but rose immediately on seeing her. "Ah, here you are. Thanks, Madame la Comtesse." And he approached to kiss her hand, but she drew back with a reproachful and indignant air. "What is the matter, madam?" he asked. "You are, doubtless, not accustomed, monseigneur, to receive such a greeting from the women whom your eminence is in the habit of summoning here." "Oh, madam, we are in your petite maison, are we not, sir?" continued she, looking disdainfully around her. "But, madam, I had hoped that your eminence would have deigned to remember in what rank I was born. I had hoped that you would have been pleased to consider that if God has made me poor, he has at least left me the pride of my race. Come, Countess, I took you for a woman of intellect." "You call a woman of intellect, it appears, monseigneur, everyone who is indifferent to and laughs at everything, even dishonor. To these women, pardon me, your eminence, I have been in the habit of giving a different name. No, Countess, you deceive yourself. I call a woman of intellect one who listens when you speak to her, and does not speak before having listened." "I listen, then." "I had to speak to you of serious matters, Countess. Therefore you receive me in a dining room. Why would you prefer my receiving you in a boudoir?" "The distinction is nice," said she. "I think so, Countess." "Then I am simply to sup with you?" "Nothing else." I trust your eminence is persuaded that I feel the honor as I ought. You are quizzing, Countess. No, I only laugh. Would you rather I were angry? You are difficult to please, Monseigneur. Oh, you are charming when you laugh, and I ask nothing better than to see you always doing so. But at this moment you're not laughing. Oh, no. There's anger in that smile which shows your beautiful teeth. Not the least in the world, Monseigneur. That is good, and I hope you will sup well. I shall sup well, and you? Oh, I am not hungry. How, madam? You refuse to sup with me. You send me away? I do not understand you, Monseigneur. Listen, dear Countess. If you were less in a passion, I would tell you that it is useless to behave like this. You are always equally charming. But as at each compliment I fear to be dismissed, I abstain. You fear to be dismissed? Really, I beg pardon of your eminence, but you become unintelligible. It is, however, quite clear what I say. The other day, when I came to see you, you complained that you were lodged unsuitably to your rank. I thought, therefore, that to restore you to your proper place would be like restoring air to the bird whom the experimenter has placed under his air pump. Consequently, beautiful Countess, that you might receive me with pleasure, and that I, on my part, might visit you without compromising either you or myself. He stopped and looked at her. Well, she said, I hope that you would deign to accept this small residence. You observe, I do not call it petite maison. Except, you give me this house, Monseigneur, said Jean, her heart beating with eagerness. A very small gift, Countess, but if I had offered you more, you would have refused. Oh, Monseigneur, it is impossible for me to accept this. Impossible, why? Do not say that word to me, for I do not believe in it. The house belongs to you. The keys are here on this silver plate. Do you find out another humiliation in this? No, but... Then accept. Monseigneur, I have told you. How, madam? You write to the ministers for a pension. You accept 100 louis from an unknown lady. Oh, Monseigneur, it is different. Come, I have waited for you in your dining room. I have not yet seen the boudoir, nor the drawing room, nor the bedrooms, for I suppose there are all these. Oh, Monseigneur, forgive me. You force me to confess that you the most delicate of men. And she blushed with the pleasure she had been so long restraining. But checking herself, she sat down and said, Now will your eminence give me my supper? The cardinal took off his cloak and sat down also. Supper was served in a few moments. Jean put on her mask before the servants came in. It is I who ought to wear a mask, said the cardinal, for you are at home among your own people. Jean laughed, but did not take hers off. In spite of her pleasure and surprise, she made a good supper. The cardinal was a man of much talent, and from his great knowledge of the world and of women, he was a man difficult to contend with, and he thought that this country girl, full of pretension, but who, in spite of her pride, could not conceal her greediness, would be an easy conquest, worth undertaking on account of her beauty, and of something piquant about her, very pleasing to a man blasé like him. He therefore never took pains to be much on his guard with her, and she, more cunning than he thought, saw through his opinion of her, and tried to strengthen it by playing the provincial coquette, and appearing silly that her adversary might be in reality weak in his overconfidence. The cardinal thought her completely dazzled by the present he had made her, and so, indeed, she was. But he forgot that he himself was below the mark of the ambition of a woman like Jean. Come, said he, pouring out for her a glass of Cyprus wine. As you have signed your contract with me, you will not be unfriendly any more, Countess. Oh, no. You will receive me here sometimes without repugnance? I shall never be so ungrateful as to forget whose house this really is. Not mine. Oh, yes, Monseigneur. Do not contradict me. I advise you, or I shall begin to impose conditions. You take care on your part. Of what? Why, I am at home here, you know, and if your conditions are unreasonable, I shall call my servants. The cardinal laughed. Ah, you laugh, sir. You think if I call they will not come. Oh, you quite mistake, Countess. I am nothing here, only your guest. Apropos, continued he, as if it had just entered his head, have you heard anything more of the ladies who came to see you? The ladies of the portrait? Said Jean. Who, now knowing Queen, saw through the artifice. Yes, the ladies of the portrait. Monseigneur, you know them as well and even better than I do, I feel sure. Oh, Countess, you do me wrong. Did you not express a wish to learn who they were? Certainly. It is natural to desire to know your benefactors. Well, if new, I should have told you. Le Cardinal, you do know them. No. If you repeat that no, I shall have to call you a liar. I shall know how to avenge that insult. How? With a kiss. You know the portrait of Maria Theresa? Certainly, but what of that? That, having recognized this portrait, you must have had some suspicion of the person to whom it belonged. And why? Because it was natural to think that the portrait of a mother would only be in the hands of her daughter. The Queen! Cried the Cardinal, with so truthful a tone of surprise that it duped even Jean. Do you really think the Queen came to see you? And you did not suspect it? Mon Dieu, no. How should I? I, who speak to you, am neither son, daughter, nor even relation of Maria Theresa, yet I have a portrait of her about me at this moment. Look, said he, and he drew out a snuff box and showed it to her. Therefore you see that if I, who am in no way related to the imperial house, care about such a portrait, another might do the same, and yet be a stranger. Jean was silent. She had nothing to answer. Then it is your opinion, he went on, that you have had a visit from the Queen Marie Antoinette. The Queen and another lady. Madame de Polignac? I do not know. Perhaps Madame de Lamballe? A young lady very beautiful and very serious. Oh, perhaps Mademoiselle de Taverny. It is possible. I do not know her. Well, if Her Majesty has really come to visit you, you are sure of her protection. It is a great step toward your fortune. I believe it, Monseigneur. And Her Majesty was generous to you. She gave me 100 louis. And she is not rich, particularly now. That doubles my gratitude. Did she show much interest in you? Very great. Then all goes well, said the prelate. There only remains one thing now, to penetrate to Versailles. The Countess smiled. Ah, Countess, it is not so easy. She smiled again, more significantly than before. Really, you provincials, said he, doubt nothing. Because you have seen Versailles with the doors open and stairs to go up, you think anyone may open these doors and ascend these stairs. Have you seen the monsters of brass, of marble, and of lead, which adorn the park and the terraces? Yes. Griffins, gorgons, ghouls, and other ferocious beasts. Well, you will find 10 times as many and more wicked, living animals between you and the favored sovereigns. Your Eminence will aid me to pass through the ranks of these monsters. I will try, but it will be difficult. And if you pronounce my name, if you discover your talisman, it will lose all its power. Happily, then, I am guarded by the immediate protection of the Queen, and I shall enter Versailles with a good key. What key, Countess? Monsieur le Cardinal, that is my secret, or rather it is not. For if it were mine, I should feel bound to tell it to my generous protector. There is then an obstacle, Countess? Alas! Yes, Monseigneur. It is not my secret, and I must keep it. Let it suffice you to know that tomorrow I shall go to Versailles, that I shall be received, and I have every reason to hope well received. The Cardinal looked at her with wonder. Ah, Countess, said he, laughing, I shall see if you will get in. You will push your curiosity so far as to follow me? Exactly. Very well. Really, Countess, you are a living enigma. One of those monsters who inhabit Versailles. Oh, you believe me a man of taste, do you not? Certainly, Monseigneur. Well, here I am at your knees, and I take your hand and kiss it. Should I do that if I thought you a monster? I beg you, sir, to remember, said Jean coldly, that I am neither a grisette nor an opera girl, that I am my own mistress, feeling myself the equal of any man in this kingdom. Therefore I shall take freely and spontaneously, when it shall please me, the man who will have gained my affections. Therefore, Monseigneur, respect me a little and in me, the nobility to which we both belong. The Cardinal rose. I see, said he, you wish me to love you seriously. I do not say that, but I wish to be able to love you. When that day comes, if it does comes, you'll easily find out, believe me. If you do not, I will let you know it. For I feel young enough and attractive enough not to mind making the first advances, nor to fear a repulse. Countess, if it depends upon me, you shall love me. We shall see. You have already a friendship for me, have you not? More than that. Oh, then we are at least halfway. And you are a woman that I should adore if he stopped and sighed. Well, said she, if you would permit it. Perhaps I shall, when I shall be independent of your assistance, and you can no longer suspect that I encourage you from interested motives. Then you forbid me to pay my court now? Not at all, but there are other ways besides kneeling and kissing hands. Well, Countess, let us hear. What will you permit? All that is compatible with my tastes and duties. Oh, that is vague indeed. Stop. I was going to add my caprices. I am lost. You draw back. No, said the cardinal, I do not. Well, then I want a proof. Speak. I want to go to the ball at the opera. Well, Countess, that only concerns yourself. Are you not free as heir to go where you wish? Ah, but you have not heard all. I want you to go with me. I to the opera? Countess, said he with a start of horror. See already how much your desire to please me is worth. A cardinal cannot go to a ball at the opera. Countess, it is as if I proposed to you to go into a public house. Then a cardinal does not dance, I suppose? Oh, no. But I have read that le Cardinal de Richelieu danced a saraband. Yes, before one of Austria. Before a queen, repeated Jean. Perhaps you would do as much for a queen? The cardinal could not help blushing, dissembler as he was. Is it not natural, she continued, that I should feel hurt when, after all your protestations, you will not do as much for me as you would for a queen? Especially when I only ask you to go concealed in a domino and a mask. Besides, a man like you, who may do anything with impunity? The cardinal yielded to her flattery and her blandishments. Taking her hand, he said, For you, I will do anything, even the impossible. Thanks, Monseigneur. You are really amiable. But now you have consented, I will let you off. No, no. He who does the work can alone claim the reward. Countess, I will attend you, but in a domino. We shall pass through the Rue Saint-Denis, close to the opera, said the Countess. I will go and buy a domino and a mask for you, and you can put them on in the carriage. That will do delightfully. Oh, Monseigneur, you are very good. But now I think of it, perhaps at the Hotel Rowan you might find a domino more to your taste than the one I should buy. Now, Countess, that is unpardonable malice. Believe me, if I go to the opera, I shall be as surprised to find myself there as you were to find yourself supping tete-a-tete with a man not your husband. Jean had nothing to reply to this. Soon a carriage without arms drove up. They both got in and drove off at a rapid pace. Chapter 22. Some words about the opera. The opera, that temple of pleasure at Paris, was burned in the month of June, 1781. 20 persons had perished in the ruins, and as it was the second time within 18 years that this had happened, it created a prejudice against the place where it then stood, in the Palais Royal, and the king had ordered its removal to a less central spot. The place chosen was La Porte Saint-Martin. The king, vexed to see Paris deprived for so long of its opera, became as sorrowful as if the arrivals of grain had ceased, or bread had risen to more than 7 sous the quartern loaf. It was melancholy to see the nobility, the army, and the citizens without their after-dinner amusement, and to see the promenades thronged with the unemployed divinities, from the chorus singers to the prima donnas. An architect was then introduced to the king, full of new plans, who promised so perfect a ventilation that even in case of fire no one could be smothered. He would make 8 doors for exit, besides 5 large windows placed so low that anyone could jump out of them. In the place of the beautiful Hall of Moreau, he was to erect a building with 96 feet of frontage towards the boulevard, ornamented with 8 caryatids on pillars forming 3 entrance doors, a bas-relief above the capitals, and a gallery with 3 windows. The stage was to be 36 feet wide, the theater 72 feet deep and 80 across, from one wall to the other. He asked only 75 days and nights before he opened it to the public. This appeared to all a mere gasconade, and was much laughed at. The king, however, concluded the agreement with him. Lenore set to work and kept his word. But the public feared that a building so quickly erected could not be safe, and when it opened, no one would go. Even the few courageous ones who did go to the first representation of Adele de Ponthieu made their wills first. The architect was in despair. He came to the king to consult him as to what was to be done. It was just after the birth of the Dauphin. All Paris was full of joy. The king advised him to announce a gratuitous performance in honor of the event and give a ball after. Doubtless plenty would come, and if the theater stood, its safety was established. "Thanks, sire," said the architect. "But reflect first," said the king. "If there be a crowd, are you sure of your building?" "Sire, I am sure, and shall go there myself." "I will go to the second representation," said the king. The architect followed this advice. They played Adele de Ponthieu to 3,000 spectators, who afterwards danced. After this, there could be no more fear. It was 3 years afterwards that Madame de la Motte and the cardinal went to the ball. Chapter 23. The Ball at the Opera. The ball was at its height when they glided in quietly and were soon lost in the crowd. A couple had taken refuge from pressure under the Queen's box. One of them wore a white domino and the other a black one. They were talking with great animation. "I tell you, Oliva," said the black domino, "that I am sure you are expecting someone. Your head is no longer a head, but a weathercock, and turns round to look after every newcomer. Well, is it astonishing that I should look at the people, when that is what I came here for?" "Oh, that is what you came for." "Well, sir, and for what do people generally come?" "A thousand things. Men, perhaps, but women only for one, to see and be seen by as many people as possible. Mademoiselle Oliva." "Oh, do not speak in that big voice. It does so frighten me. And above all, do not call me by name. It is bad taste to let everyone here know who you are." The black domino made an angry gesture. It was interrupted by a blue domino who approached them. "Come, monsieur," said he, "let madame amuse herself. It is not every night one comes to ball at the opera." "Meddle with your own affairs," replied Beausire, rudely. "Monsieur, learn once for all that a little courtesy is never out of place." "I do not know you," he replied, "and do not want to have anything to do with you. No, you do not know me, but I know you, M. Beausire." At hearing his name thus pronounced, Beausire visibly trembled. "Oh, do not be afraid, M. Beausire. I am not what you take me for." "Pardieu, sir, do you guess thoughts as well as names?" "Why not?" "Then tell me what I thought. I have never seen a sorcerer, and should find it amusing." "Oh, what you ask is not difficult enough to entitle me to that name." "Never mind, tell." "Well, then, you took me for an agent of M. de Crossen." "M. de Crossen," he repeated. "Yes, the lieutenant of police." "Sir," softly, "M. de Beausire, you really look as if you were feeling for your sword." "And so I was, sir." "Good heavens! What a warlike disposition. But I think, dear M. Beausire, you left your sword at home, and you did well. But to speak of something else, will you relinquish to me madam for a time?" "Give you up madam?" "Yes, sir. That is not uncommon, I believe, at a ball at the opera." "Certainly not, when it suits a gentleman. It suffices sometimes that it should please a lady. Do you ask it for a long time?" "Really, M. Beausire, you are too curious. Perhaps for 10 minutes. Perhaps for an hour. Perhaps for all the evening." "You are laughing at me, sir." "Come, reply, will you or not?" "No, sir." "Come, come, do not be ill-tempered. You who were so gentle just now." "Just now?" "Yes, at the Rue Dauphine." Oliva laughed. "Hold your tongue, madam," said Beausire. "Yes," continued the blue domino, "where you were on the point of killing this poor lady, but stopped at the sight of some Louis." "Oh, I see. You and she have an understanding together." "How can you say such a thing?" cried Oliva. "And if it were so," said the stranger, "it is all for your benefit." "For my benefit? That would be curious." "I will prove to you that your presence here is as hurtful as your absence would be profitable." You are a member of a certain academy, not the Académie Française, but in the Rue du Pot au Fer, in the second story, is it not, my dear Beausire? Hush, said Beausire. The blue domino drew out his watch, which was studded with diamonds that made Beausire's eyes water to look at them. Well, continued he, in a quarter of an hour they are going to discuss their little project, by which they hope to secure 2,000,000 francs among the 12 members, of whom you are one, M. Beausire. And you must be another, if you are not. Pray go on. A member of the police. Oh, M. Beausire, I thought you had more sense. If I were of the police, I should have taken you long ago, for some little affairs less honorable than this speculation. So, sir, you wish to send me to the Rue du Pot au Fer, but I know why, that I may be arrested there. I am not such a fool. Now, you are one. If I wanted to arrest you, I had only to do it, and I am rid of you at once. But gentleness and persuasion are my maxims. Oh, I know now, said Beausire. You're the man that was on the sofa 2 hours ago. What sofa? Never mind. You have induced me to go. And if you are sending a gallant man into harm, you will pay for it some day. Be tranquil, said the blue domino, laughing. By sending you there, I give you 100,000 francs at least. For you know the rule of this society is that whoever is absent loses his share. Well then, goodbye, said Beausire and vanished. The blue domino took possession of Oliva's arm, left at liberty by Beausire. Now, said she, I have let you manage poor Beausire at your ease, but I warn you, you'll find me not so easy to talk over. Therefore, find something pretty to say to me, or... I know nothing prettier than your own history, dear Mademoiselle Nicole, said he, pressing the pretty round arm of the little woman, who uttered a cry at hearing herself so addressed, but, recovering herself with marvelous quickness, said, Oh, mon Dieu, what a name! Is it I whom you call Nicole? If so, you are wrong, for that is not my name. At present I know that you call yourself Oliva, but we will talk afterwards of Oliva. At present I want to speak of Nicole. Have you forgotten the time when you bore that name? I do not believe it, my dear child, for the name that one bears as a young girl is ever the one enshrined in the heart, although one may have been forced to take another to hide the first. Poor Oliva, happy Nicole. Why do you say, poor Oliva? Do you not think me happy? It would be difficult to be happy with a man like Beausire. Oliva sighed and said, Indeed, I am not. You love him, however. A little. If you do not love him much, leave him. No. Why not? Because I should no sooner have done so than I should regret it. Do you think so? I am afraid I should. What could you have to regret in a drunkard, a gambler, a man who beats you and a blackleg, who will one day come to the gallows? You would not understand me if I told you. Try. I should regret the excitement he keeps me in. I ought to have guessed it. That comes of passing your youth with such silent people. You know about my youth? Perfectly. Oliva laughed and shook her head. You doubt it? Really, I do. Then we will talk a little about it, Mademoiselle Nicole. Very well, but I warn you I will tell nothing. I do not wish it. I do not mean your childhood. I begin from the time when you first perceived that you had a heart capable of love. Love for whom? For Gilbert. At this name, Oliva trembled. Ah, mon Dieu, she cried. How do you know? Then with a sigh said, Oh, sir, you have pronounced a name indeed fertile in remembrances. You knew Gilbert? Yes, since I speak to you of him. Alas! A charming lad, upon my word. You loved him. He was handsome. No, perhaps not, but I thought him so. He was full of mind, my equal in birth, but Gilbert thought no woman his equal. Not even Mademoiselle d'État. Oh, I know whom you mean, sir. You are well instructed. Yes, Gilbert loved higher than the poor Nicole. You are possessed of terrible secrets, sir. Tell me if you can, she continued, looking earnestly at him. What has become of him? You should know best. Why, in heaven's name? Because if he followed you from Taverny to Paris, you followed him from Paris to Trianon. Yes, that is true, but that is 10 years ago, and I wish to know what had passed since the time I ran away and since he disappeared. When Gilbert loved Mademoiselle de... Do not pronounce names aloud, said he. Well, then, when he loved her so much that each tree at Trianon was witness to his love. You loved him no more. On the contrary, I loved him more than ever, and this love was my ruin. I am beautiful, proud, and when I please, insolent, and would lay my head on the scaffold rather than confess myself despised. You have a heart, Nicole. I had then, she said, sighing. This conversation makes you sad. No, it does me good to speak of my youth. But tell me why Gilbert fled from Trianon. Do you wish me to confirm a suspicion, or to tell you something you do not know? Something I do not know. Well, I cannot tell you this. Have you not heard that he is dead? Yes, I have, but... Well, he is dead. Dead, said Nicole with an air of doubt. Then, with a sudden start, grant me one favor, she cried. As many as you like. I saw you 2 hours ago, for it was you, was it not? Certainly. You did not, then, try to disguise yourself? Not at all. But I was stupid. I saw you, but I did not observe you. I do not understand. Do you know what I want? No. Take off your mask. Here. Impossible. Oh! You cannot fear other people seeing you. Here, behind this column, you will be quite hidden. You fear that I should recognize you. You. And that I should cry, it is you, it is Gilbert. What folly. Take off your mask. Yes, on one condition, that you will take off yours, if I ask it. Agreed. The unknown took off his immediately. Oliva looked earnestly at him, then sighed and said, Alas! No, it is not Gilbert. And who am I? Oh, I do not care, as you are not he. And if it had been Gilbert, said he, as he put on his mask again. Ah, if it had been, cried she passionately, and he had said to me, Nicole, do you remember Taverny Maison Rouge? Then there would have been no longer a Beausire in the world for me. But I have told you, my dear child, that Gilbert is dead. Ah, perhaps, then, it is for the best, said Oliva with a sigh. Yes, he would never have loved you, beautiful as you are. Do you then think he despised me? No, he rather feared you. That is possible. Then you think it better he is dead? Do not repeat my words. In your mouth they wound me. But it is better for Mademoiselle Oliva. You observe, I abandon Nicole and speak to Oliva. You have before you a future, happy, rich, and brilliant. Do you think so? Yes, if you make up your mind to do anything to arrive at this end. I promise you. But you must give up sighing, as you were doing just now. Very well. I sighed for Gilbert, and as he is dead, and there are not two Gilberts in the world, I shall sigh no more. But enough of him. Yes, we will speak of yourself. Why did you run away with Beausire? Because I wished to quit Trianon, and I was obliged to go with someone. I could no longer remain a pis-aller, rejected by Gilbert. You have, then, been faithful for 10 years through pride? You have paid dearly for it. Oliva laughed. Oh, I know what you are laughing at. To hear a man, who pretends to know everything, accuse you of having been 10 years faithful, when you think you had not rendered yourself worthy of such a ridiculous reproach. However, I know all about you. I know that you went to Portugal with Beausire, where you remained 2 years, that you then left him and went to the Indies with the captain of a frigate, who hid you in his cabin, and who left you at Chandernagor when he returned to Europe. I know that you had 2 millions of rupees to spend in the house of a nabob who kept you shut up, that you escaped through the window on the shoulders of a slave. Then rich, for you had carried away 2 beautiful pearl bracelets, 2 diamonds, and 3 large rubies, you came back to France. When landing at Brest, your evil genius made you encounter Beausire on the quay, who recognized you immediately, bronze and altered as you were, while you almost fainted at the sight of him. Oh, mon Dieu, cried Oliva. Who are you, then, who know all this? I know, further, that Beausire carried you off again, persuaded you that he loved you, sold your jewels, and reduced you to poverty. Still, you say you love him, and as love is the root of all happiness, of course you ought to be happy. Oliva hung her head and covered her eyes with her hands, but two large tears might be seen forcing their way through her fingers. Liquid pearls more precious, though not so marketable, as those Beausire had sold. And this woman, at last she said, whom you describe as so proud and so happy, you have bought today for 50 louis. I am aware it is too little, mademoiselle. No, sir, on the contrary, I am surprised that a woman like me should be worth so much. You are worth more than that, as I will show you, but just now I want all your attention. Then I will be silent. No, talk. On the contrary, of anything, it does not matter what, so that we seem occupied. You are very odd. Take hold of my arm and let us walk. They walked on among the various groups. In a minute or two, Oliva asked a question. Talk as much as you like, only do not ask questions at present, said her companion. For I cannot answer now. Only as you speak, disguise your voice, hold your head up, and scratch your neck with your fan. She obeyed. In a minute, they passed a highly perfumed group, in the center which a very elegant-looking man was talking fast to three companions, who were listening respectfully. Who is that young man in that beautiful gray domino? Asked Oliva. Le Comte d'Artois, but pray do not speak just now. At this moment 2 other dominoes passed them, and stood in a place near, which was rather free from people. Lean on this pillar, Countess, said one of them in a low voice, but which was overheard by the blue domino, who started at its sound. Then a yellow domino, passing through the crowd, came up to the blue one and said, It is he. Very good, replied the other, and the yellow domino vanished. Now then, said Oliva's companion, turning to her, we will begin to enjoy ourselves a little. I hope so, for you have twice made me sad, first by taking away Beausire, and then by speaking of Gilbert. I will be both Gilbert and Beausire to you, said the unknown. Oh, sighed Oliva, I do not ask you to love me, remember. I only ask you to accept the life I offer you, that is, the accomplishment of all your desires, provided occasionally you give way to mine. Just now I have one. What? That black domino that you see. There is a German of my acquaintance who refused to come to the ball with me, saying he was not well, and now he is here and a lady with him. Who is she? I do not know. We will approach them. I will pretend that you are a German, and you must not speak, for fear of being found out. Now, pretend to point him out to me with the end of your fan. Like that? Yes, very well. Now whisper to me. Oliva obeyed with a docility which charmed her companion. The black domino, who had his back turned to them, did not see all this, but his companion did. Take care, Monseigneur, said she. There are 2 masks watching us. Oh, do not be afraid, Countess. They cannot recognize us. Do not mind them, but let me assure you that never form was so enchanting as yours. Never eye so brilliant, never. Hush! The spies approach. Spies, said the cardinal uneasily. Disguise your voice if they make you speak, and I will do the same. Oliva and her blue domino indeed approached. He came up to the cardinal and said, Mask. What do you want? Said the cardinal, in a voice as unlike his natural one as he could make it. The lady who accompanies me desires me to ask you some questions. Ask, said M. de Rohan. Are they very indiscreet? Said Madame de Lamotte. So indiscreet that you shall not hear them. And he pretended to whisper to Oliva, who made a sign in answer. Then, in irreproachable German, he said to the cardinal, Monseigneur, are you in love with the lady who accompanies you? The cardinal trembled. Did you say Monseigneur? He asked. Yes. You deceive yourself. I am not the person you think. Oh, M., le cardinal, do not deny it. It is useless. If even I did not know you, the lady who accompanies me assures me she knows you perfectly. And he again whispered to Oliva, make a sign for yes. Do so each time I press your arm. She did so. You astonish me, said the cardinal. Who is this lady? Oh, Monseigneur, I thought you would have known. She soon knew you. It is true, that jealousy. Madame is jealous of me, cried the cardinal. We do not say that, replied the unknown, rather haughtily. "What are you talking about?" asked Madame de la Motte, who did not like this conversation in German. "Oh, nothing, nothing." "Madam," said the cardinal to Oliva, "one word from you, and I promise to recognize you instantly." Oliva, who saw him speaking to her, but did not understand a word, whispered to her companion. All this mystery piqued the cardinal. One single German word, he said, could not much compromise Madame. The blue domino again pretended to take her orders, and then said, "M. Cardinal. These are the words of Madame, he whose thoughts are not ever on the alert, he whose imagination does not perpetually suggest the presence of the loved one, does not love, however much he may pretend it." The cardinal appeared struck with these words. All his attitude expressed surprise, respect, and devotion. "It is impossible," he murmured in French. "What is impossible?" asked Madame de la Motte, who seized eagerly on these few words she could understand. "Nothing, madam, nothing." "Really, Cardinal, you are making me play but a sorry part," said she, withdrawing her arm angrily. He did not even seem to notice it, so great was his preoccupation with the German lady. "Madam," said he to her, "these words that your companion has repeated to me in your name are some German lines which I read in a house which is perhaps known to you." The blue domino pressed Oliva's arm, who thereupon bowed in assent. "That house," said the cardinal hesitatingly, "is it not called Schönbrunn?" She again made a gesture of assent. They were written on a table of cherrywood, with a gold bodkin by an august hand. "Yes," bowed Oliva again. The cardinal stopped, he tottered, and leaned against a pillar for support. Madame de la Motte stood by, watching this strange scene. Then the cardinal, touching the blue domino, said, "This is a conclusion of the quotation. But who sees everywhere the loved object, who recognizes her by a flower, by a perfume, to the thickest veils, he can still be silent. His voice is in his heart, and if one other understands him, he is happy." "Oh, they are speaking German here," said a young voice from an approaching group. "Let us listen. Do you speak German, Marshal?" "No, Monseigneur." "You, Charny?" "Yes, Your Highness." "Here is Le Comte d'Artois," said Oliva softly to her companion. A crowd followed them, and many were passing round. "Take care, gentlemen," said the blue domino. "Monsieur," replied the prince, "the people are pushing us." At this moment some invisible hand pulled Oliva's hood from behind, and her mask fell. She replaced it as quickly as possible with a half-terrified cry, which was echoed by one affected disquiet from her companion. Several others around looked no little bewildered. The cardinal nearly fainted, and Madame de la Motte supported him. The pressure of the crowd separated the Comte d'Artois and his party from them. Then the blue domino approached the cardinal and said, "This is indeed an irreparable misfortune. This lady's honor is at your mercy." "Oh, monsieur," murmured the cardinal, who was much agitated. "Let us go quickly," said the blue domino to Oliva, and they moved away. "Now I know," said Madame de la Motte to herself, "what the cardinal meant was impossible. He took this woman for the queen, but what an effect it has had on him." "Would you like to lead the ball?" asked M. de Rohan in a feeble voice. "As you please, Monseigneur," replied Jean. "I do not find much interest here, do you?" "None at all." They pushed their way through the crowd. The cardinal, who was tall, looked all around him to try and see again the vision which had disappeared. But blue, white, and gray dominoes were everywhere, and he could distinguish no one. They had been some time in the carriage, and he had not yet spoken to Jean. Chapter 24. The Examination. At last Jean said, "Where is this carriage taking me to, Cardinal?" "Back to your own house, Countess." "My house in the Faubourg?" "Yes, Countess. A very small house to contain so many charms." They soon stopped. Jean alighted, and he was preparing to follow her, but she stopped him and said, "It is very late, Cardinal." "Adieu, then," said he, and he drove away, absorbed with the scene at the ball. Jean entered alone into her new house. 6 lackeys waited for her in the hall, and she looked at them as calmly as though she had been used to it all her life. "Where are my femmes de chambre?" said she. One of the men advanced respectfully. 2 women wait for madame in her room." "Call them." The valet obeyed. "Where do you usually sleep?" said Jean to them. when they entered. "We have no places yet," said one of them. "We can sleep wherever Madam pleases." "Where are the keys?" "Here, Madam." "Well, for this night you shall sleep out of the house." The women looked at her in surprise. "You have some place to go to?" said Jean. "Certainly, Madam, but it is late. Still, if Madam wishes." "And these men can accompany you," she continued, dismissing the valets also, who seemed rather pleased. "When shall we return?" asked one of them. "Tomorrow at noon." They seemed more astonished than ever, but Jean looked so imperious that they did not speak. "Is there anyone else here?" she asked. "No one, Madam. It is impossible for Madam to remain like this. Surely you must have someone here." "I want no one. The house might take fire. Madam might be ill." "Go, all of you," said Jean, "and take this," added she, giving them money from her purse. They all thanked her and disappeared, saying to each other that they had found a strange mistress. Jean then locked the doors and said triumphantly, "Now I am alone here in my own house." She now commenced an examination, admiring each thing individually. The ground floor contained a bathroom, dining room, 3 drawing rooms, and 2 morning rooms. The furniture of these rooms was handsome, though not new. It pleased Jean better than if it had been furnished expressly for her. All the rich antiques disdained by fashionable ladies, the marvelous pieces of carved ebony, the glass lustres, the Gothic clocks, chefs d'oeuvre of carving and enamel, the screens with embroidered Chinese figures, and the immense vases threw Jean into indescribable raptures. Here on a chimney-piece 2 gilded tritons were bearing branches of coral, upon which were hung jewel fruits. In another place, on a gilded console table, was an enormous elephant, with sapphires hanging from his ears, supporting a tower filled with little bottles of scent. Books and gilt bindings were on rosewood shelves. One room was hung with Gobelin tapestry and furnished in gray and gold, another paneled in paintings by Vernet. The small rooms contained pictures. The whole was evidently the collection of years. Jean examined it all with delight. Then, as her domino was inconvenient, she went into her room to put on a dressing gown of wadded silk, and, secure of meeting no one, she wandered from room to room, continuing her examination, till at last, her light nearly exhausted, she returned to her bedroom, which was hung with embroidered blue satin. She had seen everything and admired everything. There only remained herself to be admired, and she thought, as she undressed before the long mirror, that she was not the object least worthy of admiration in the place. At last, wearied out with pleasurable excitement, she went to bed and soon sank to sleep. Chapter 25. The Academy of M. Beausire. Beausire had followed the advice of the Blue Domino and repaired to the place of meeting in the Rue du Pot au Fer. He was frightened by the apparent exclusion which his companions had seemed to meditate in not communicating their plans to him, and he knew none of them to be particularly scrupulous. He had acquired the reputation among them of a man to be feared. It was not wonderful, as he had been a soldier and worn a uniform. He knew how to draw his sword, and he had a habit of looking very fierce at the slightest word that displeased him, all things which appear rather terrifying to those of doubtful courage, especially when they have reason to shun the eclat of a duel and the curiosity of the police. Beausire counted, therefore, on revenging himself by frightening them a little. It was a long way, but Beausire had money in his pocket. So he took a coach, promised the driver an extra franc to go fast, and, to make up for the absence of his sword, he assumed as fierce a look as he could on entering the room. It was a large hall, full of tables, at which were seated about 20 players, drinking beer or syrups, and smiling now and then on some highly rouged women who sat near them. They were playing faro at the principal table, but the stakes were low, and the excitement small in proportion. On the entrance of the domino, all the women smiled on him, half in raillery and half in coquetry, for M. Beausire was a favorite among them. However, he advanced in silence to the table, without noticing any one. One of the players, who was a good-humored-looking fellow, said to him, "Corbleu, Chevalier, you come from the ball looking out of sorts." "Is your domino uncomfortable?" said another. "No, it is not my domino," replied Beausire gruffly. "Oh," said the banker, "he has been unfaithful to us. He has been playing somewhere else and lost." It is not I who am unfaithful to my friends. I am incapable of it. I leave that to others. What do you mean, dear Chevalier? I know what I mean, replied he. I thought I had friends here. Certainly, replied several voices. Well, I was deceived. How? You planned things without me. Several of the members began to protest. It was not true. I know better, said Beausire, and these false friends shall be punished. He put his hand to his side to feel for his sword, but as it was not there, he only shook his pocket, and the gold rattled. Oh, said the banker. Beausire is not lost. Come, will you not play? Thanks, said Beausire. I will keep what I've got. Only 1 Louis, said one of the women, caressingly. I do not play for miserable Louis, said he. We play for millions here tonight. Yes, gentlemen, millions. He had worked himself up into a great state of excitement, and was losing sight of all prudence, when a blow from behind made him turn, and he saw by him a great dark figure, stiff and upright, and with 2 shining black eyes. He met Beausire's furious glance with a ceremonious bow. The Portuguese, said Beausire. The Portuguese, echoed the ladies, who abandoned Beausire to crowd round the newcomer, he being their especial pet, as he was in the habit of bringing them sweetmeats, sometimes wrapped up in notes of 40 or 50 francs. This man was one of the 12 associates. He was used as a bait at their society. It was agreed that he should lose 100 Louis a week as an inducement to allure strangers to play. He was, therefore, considered a useful man. He was also an agreeable one, and was held in much consideration. Beausire became silent on seeing him. The Portuguese took his place at the table, and put down 20 Louis, which he soon lost, thereby making some of those who had been stripped before forget their losses. All the money received by the banker was dropped into a well under the table, and he was forbidden to wear long sleeves, lest he should conceal any within them, although the other members generally took the liberty of searching both sleeves and pockets before they left. Several now put on their greatcoats and took leave, some happy enough to escort the ladies. A few, however, after making a feint to go, returned into another room, and here the 12 associates soon found themselves united. Now we will have an explanation, said Beausire. Do not speak so loud, said the Portuguese in good French. Then they examined the doors and windows to make certain that all was secure, drew the curtain close, and seated themselves. I have a communication to make, said the Portuguese. It was lucky, however, I arrived when I did, for Beausire was seized this evening with a most imprudent flow of eloquence. Beausire tried to speak. Silence, said the Portuguese. Let us not waste words. You know my idea beforehand very well. You are a man of talent and may have guessed it, but I think a more proper should never overcome self-interest. I do not understand. Beausire hoped to be the first to make this proposition. What proposition? Cried the rest. Concerning the 2 million francs, said Beausire. 2 million francs, cried they. First, said the Portuguese, you exaggerate. It is not as much as that. We do not know what you are talking of, said the banker, but are not the less all ears, said another. The Portuguese drank off a large glass of orgeat and then began, The necklace is not worth more than 1,500,000 francs. Oh, then it concerns a necklace, said Beausire. Yes. Did you not mean the same thing? Perhaps. Now he is going to be discreet after his former folly, said the Portuguese. But time presses, for the ambassador will arrive in 8 days. This matter becomes complicated, said the banker. A necklace, 1,500,000 francs, and an ambassador. Pray explain. In a few words, said the Portuguese. Bamer and Versailles offered the queen a necklace worth that sum. She refused it, and now they do not know what to do with it, for none but a royal fortune could buy it. Well, I have found the royal personage who will buy this necklace, and obtain the custody of it from Bamer and Versailles, and that is my gracious sovereign, the Queen of Portugal. We understand it less than ever, said the associates. And I not at all, thought Beausire. Then he said aloud, Explain yourself clearly, dear Menel. Our private differences should give place to the public interests. I acknowledge you the author of the idea, and renounce all right to its paternity. Therefore speak on. Willingly, said Manol, drinking a second glass of orgeat. The embassy is vacant just now. The new ambassador, M. de Souza, will not arrive for a week. Well, he may arrive sooner. They all looked stupefied but Beausire, who said, Do you not see some ambassador, whether true or false? Exactly, said Manol. And the ambassador who arrives may desire to buy this necklace of the Queen of Portugal, and treat accordingly with M. Bamer and Bassange. That is all. But, said the banker, they would not allow such a necklace to pass into the hands of M. de Souza himself without good security. Oh, I have thought of all that. The ambassador's house is vacant, with the exception of the chancellor, who is a Frenchman and speaks bad Portuguese, and who is therefore delighted when the Portuguese speak French to him, as he does not then betray himself. But who likes to speak Portuguese to the French, as it sounds grand? Well, we will present ourselves to this chancellor with all the appearances of a new legation. Appearances are something, said Beausire, but the credentials are much more. We will have them, replied Manol. No one can deny that Don Manol is an invaluable man, said Beausire. Well, our appearances and the credentials having convinced the chancellor of our identity, we will establish ourselves at the house. That is pretty bold, said Beausire. It is necessary and quite easy, said Manol. The chancellor will be convinced, and if he should afterward become less credulous, we will dismiss him. I believe an ambassador has the right to change his chancellor. Certainly. Then, when we are masters of the hotel, our first operation will be to wait on M.M., Bamer, and Bassange. But you forget one thing, said Beausire. Our first act should be to ask an audience of the king, and then we should break down. The famous Riza Bey, who was presented to Louis XIV as ambassador from the Shah of Persia, spoke Persian at least, and there were no savants here capable of knowing how well. But we should be found out at once. We should be told directly that our Portuguese was remarkably French, and we should be sent to the Bastille. We will escape this danger by remaining quietly at home. Then M. Bamer will not believe in our ambassadorship. M. Bamer will be told that we are sent merely to buy the necklace. We will show him our order to do this, as we shall before have shown it to the chancellor. Only we must try to avoid showing to the ministers, for they are suspicious, and might find a host of little flaws. Oh, yes, cried they all, let us avoid the ministers. But if M.M., Bamer, and Bassange require money on account, asked Beausire. That would complicate the affair, certainly. For, continued Beausire, it is usual for an ambassador to have letters of credit at least, if not ready money, and here we should fail. You find plenty of reasons why it should fail, said Manol, but nothing to make it succeed. It is because I wish it to succeed that I speak of the difficulties. But stop, a thought strikes me. In every ambassador's house there is a strong box. Yes, but it may be empty. Well, if it be, we must ask M.M., Bamer, and Bassange, who are their correspondents at Lisbon, and we will sign and stamp for them letters of credit for the sum demanded. That will do, said Manol. I was engrossed with a grand idea, but had not sufficiently considered the details. Now, let us think of arranging the parts, said Beausire. Don Manol will be ambassador. Certainly, they all said. And M. Beausire, my secretary and interpreter, said Manol. Why so? Said Beausire, rather uneasily. I am M. de Souza, and must not speak a word of French, for I know that that gentleman speaks nothing but Portuguese, and very little of that. You, on the contrary, M. Beausire, who have traveled and have acquired French habits, who speak Portuguese also. Very badly, said Beausire. Quite enough to deceive a Parisian. And then, you know, the most useful agents will have the largest shares. Assuredly, said the others. Well, it is agreed. I am secretary and interpreter. Then as to the money, it shall be divided into 12 parts. But as ambassador and author of the scheme shall have a share and a half. M. Beausire the same, as interpreter, and because he partly share my idea, and also a share and a half to him who sells the jewels. So far, then, it is settled. We will arrange the minor details tomorrow, for it is very late, said Beausire, who was thinking of Oliva, left at the ball with the blue domino. towards whom, in spite of his readiness in giving away Louis d'Or, he did not feel very friendly. "No, no, we will finish at once," said the others. "What is to be prepared?" "A traveling carriage, with the arms of M. de Souza," said Beausire. "That would take too long to paint and to dry," said Manon. "Then we must say that the ambassador's carriage broke down on the way, and he was forced to use that of the secretary. I must have a carriage, and my arms will do for that. Besides, we will have plenty of bruises and injuries on the carriage, and especially round the arms, and no one will think of them. But the rest of the embassy? We will arrive in the evening. It is the best time to make a debut, and you shall all follow next day, when we have prepared the way." "Very well. But every ambassador, besides the secretary, must have a valet de chamber. You, captain," said Don Manuel, addressing one of the gang, "shall take this part." The captain bowed. "And the money for the purchases?" said Manuel. "I have nothing." "I have a little," said Beausire, "but it belongs to my mistress. What have we in our fund?" "Your keys, gentlemen," said the banker. Each drew out a key, which opened one of 12 locks in the table, so that none of these honest associates could open it without all the others. They went a look. 198 Louis, besides a reserve fund, said the banker. "Give them to M, Beausire and me." "It is not too much," said Manon. "Give us 2/3 and leave the rest," said Beausire, with a generosity which won all their hearts. Don Manuel and Beausire received, therefore, 132 Louis, and 66 remained for the others. They then separated, having fixed a rendezvous for the next day. Beausire rolled up his domino under his arm and hastened to the Rue Dauphine, where he hoped to find Oliva in possession of some new Louis d'Or. Chapter 26. The Ambassador. On the evening of the next day, a traveling carriage passed through the Barrière d'Offre, so covered with dust and scratches that no one could discern the arms. The 4 horses that drew it went at a rapid pace, until it arrived before an hotel of handsome appearance, in the Rue de la Gessienne, at the door of which 2 men, one of whom was in full dress, were waiting. The carriage entered the courtyard of the hotel, and one of the persons waiting approached the door and commenced speaking in bad Portuguese. "Who are you?" said a voice from the inside, speaking the language perfectly. "The unworthy chancellor of the embassy, your excellency." "Very well. Mon Dieu, how badly you speak our language, my dear chancellor. But where are we to go?" "This way, monseigneur." "This is a poor reception," said Don Manuel, as he got out of the carriage, leaning on the arms of his secretary and valet. "Your excellency must pardon me," said the chancellor, "but the courier announcing your arrival only reached the hotel at 2 o'clock today. I was absent on some business, and when I returned, found your excellency's letter. I have only had time to have the rooms opened and lighted." "Very good. It gives me great pleasure to see the illustrious person of our ambassador. We desire to keep as quiet as possible," said Don Manuel, "until we receive further orders from Lisbon. But pray show me to my room, for I am dying with fatigue. My secretary will give you all necessary directions." The chancellor bowed respectfully to Beausire, who returned it, and then said, "We will speak French, sir. I think it will be better for both of us." "Yes," murmured the chancellor, "I shall be more at my ease, for I confess that my pronunciation—" "So I hear," interrupted Beausire. "I will take the liberty to say to you, sir, as you seem so amiable, that I trust M. de Souza will not be annoyed at my speaking such bad Portuguese." "Oh, not at all, as you speak French." "French," cried the chancellor. "I was born in the Rue Saint-Honoré." "Oh, that will do," said Beausire. "Your name is de Corno, is it not?" "Yes, monsieur, rather a lucky one, as it has a Spanish termination. It is very flattering to me that monsieur knew my name." "Oh, you are well known, so well that we did not bring a chancellor from Lisbon with us." "I am very grateful, monsieur, but I think M. de Souza is ringing." "Let us go and see." They found Manuel attired in a magnificent dressing gown. Several boxes and dressing cases of rich appearance were already unpacked and lying about. "Enter," said he to the chancellor. "Will His Excellency be angry if I answer in French?" said de Corno, in a low voice to Beausire. Oh, no, I am sure of it. Am de Corno, therefore, paid the compliments in French. Oh, it is very convenient that you speak French so well. Am de Corno, said the ambassador. He takes me for a Portuguese, thought the chancellor with joy. Now, said Manol, can I have supper? Certainly, Your Excellency. The Palais Royal is only 2 steps from here, and I know an excellent restaurant, from which Your Excellency can have a good supper in a very short time. Order in your own name, if you please, M. de Corno, and if Your Excellency will permit me, I will add to it some bottles of capital wine. Oh, our Chancellor keeps a good cellar, then, said Beausire, jokingly. It is my only luxury, replied he, and now, by the wax lights, they could remark his rather red nose and puffed cheeks. Very well, M. de Corno, bring your wine and sup with us. Such an honor. Oh, no etiquette tonight. I am only a traveler. I shall not begin to be ambassador till tomorrow. Then we will talk of business. Monseigneur will permit me to arrange my toilet. Oh, you are superb already, said Beausire. Yes, but this is a reception dress, and not a gala one. Remain as you are, monsieur, and give the time to expediting our supper. De Corno, delighted, left the room to fulfill his orders. Then the 3 rogues, left together, began to discuss their affairs. Does this chancellor sleep here? Said Manol. No. The fellow has a good cellar, and, I doubt not, a snug lodging somewhere or other. He is an old bachelor. There is a Suisse. We must get rid of him, and there are a few valets whom we must have placed tomorrow with our own friends. Who is in the kitchen department? No one. The old ambassador did not live here. He had a house in the town. What about the strong box? Oh, on that point we must consult the chancellor. It is a delicate matter. I charge myself with it, said Beausire. We are already capital friends. Hush, here he comes. De Corno entered, quite out of breath. He had ordered the supper and fetched 6 bottles of wine from his cellar, and was looking quite radiant at the thoughts of the coming repast. Will Your Excellency descend to the dining room? No, we will sup up here. Here is the wine, then, said de Corno. It sparkles like rubies, said Beausire, holding it to the light. Sit down, M. de Corno. My valet will wait upon us. What day did the last dispatches arrive? Immediately after the departure of Your Excellency's predecessor. Are the affairs of the embassy in good order? Oh, yes, Monseigneur. No money difficulties? No debts? Not that I know of. Because if there are, we must begin by paying them. Oh, Your Excellency will have nothing of that sort to do. All the accounts were paid up 3 weeks ago, and the day after the departure of the late ambassador, 100,000 francs arrived here. 100,000 francs, said Beausire. Yes, in gold. So, said Beausire, the box contained 100,380 francs, monsieur. It is not much, said Manol coldly. But happily, Her Majesty has placed funds at my disposal. I told you, continued he, turning to Beausire, that I thought we should need it at Paris. Your Excellency took wise precautions, said Beausire respectfully. From the time of this important communication, the hilarity of the party went on increasing. A good supper, consisting of salmon, crabs, and sweets, contributed to their satisfaction. De Corno, quite at his ease, ate enough for 10, and did not fail, either, in demonstrating that a Parisian could do honor to port and sherry. Chapter 27. Messrs. Bamer and Bassange. M. De Corno blessed heaven repeatedly for sending an ambassador who preferred his speaking French to Portuguese, and liked Portuguese wines better than French ones. At last, Manol expressed a wish to go to bed. De Corno rose and left the room, although, it must be confessed, he found some difficulty in the operation. It was now the turn of the valet to have supper, which he did with great goodwill. The next day the hotel assumed an air of business. All the bureaus were open, and everything indicated life in a recently deserted place. The report soon spread in the neighborhood that some great personages had arrived from Portugal during the night. This, although it was wanted to give them credit, could not but inspire the conspirators with some alarm, for police had quick ears and Argus eyes. Still, they thought that by audacity, combined with prudence, they might easily keep them from becoming suspicious until they had time to complete their business. 2 carriages containing the other 9 associates arrived, as agreed upon, and they were soon installed in their different departments. Beausire induced the coroner himself to dismiss the porter on the ground that he did not speak Portuguese. They were, therefore, in a good situation to keep off all unwelcome visitors. About noon, Don Manuel, gaily dressed, got into a carriage, which they had hired for 500 francs a month, and set out, with his secretary, for the residence of M. Bamer and Bassange. Their servant knocked at the door, which was secured with immense locks, and studded with great nails, like that of a prison. A servant opened it. His Excellency the Ambassador of Portugal desires to speak to M. Bamer and Bassange. They got out, and M. Bamer came to them in a few moments, and received them with a profusion of polite speeches. But, seeing that the ambassador did not deign even a smile in reply, looked somewhat disconcerted. His Excellency does not speak or understand French, sir, and you must communicate to him through me, if you do not speak Portuguese, said Beausire. No, monsieur, I do not. Manuel then spoke in Portuguese to Beausire, who, turning to M. Bamer, said, His Excellency M. Comte de Souza, ambassador from the Queen of Portugal, desires me to ask you if you have not in your possession a beautiful diamond necklace? Bamer looked at him scrutinizingly. A beautiful diamond necklace, repeated he. The one which you offered the Queen of France, and which our gracious Queen has heard of. Monsieur, said Bamer, is an officer of the ambassador's? His secretary, monsieur. Don Manuel was seated with the air of a great man, looking carelessly at the pictures which hung round the room. M. Bamer, said Beausire abruptly, do you not understand what I am saying to you? Yes, sir, answered Bamer, rather startled by the manner of the secretary, because I see His Excellency is becoming impatient. Excuse me, sir, said Bamer, coloring, but I dare not show the necklace except in my partner's presence. Well, sir, call your partner. Don Manuel approached Beausire and began again talking to him in Portuguese. His Excellency says, interpreted he, that he has already waited 10 minutes, and that he is not accustomed to be kept waiting. Bamer bowed and rang the bell. A minute afterwards Bassange entered. Bamer explained the matter to him, who, after looking scrutinizingly at the Portuguese, left the room with a key given him by his partner, and soon returned with a case in one hand. The other was hidden under his coat, but they distinctly saw the shining barrel of a pistol. However well we may look, said Manuel gravely in Portuguese to his companion, these gentlemen seem to take us for pickpockets rather than ambassadors. Bassange advanced and put the case into the hands of Manuel. He opened it, and then cried angrily to his secretary, Monsieur, tell these gentlemen that they tire my patience. I ask for a diamond necklace, and they bring me paste. Tell them I will complain to the ministers, and will have them thrown into Bastille, impertinent people, who play tricks upon an ambassador. And he threw down the case in such a passion that they did not need an interpretation of his speech, but began explaining most humbly that in France it was usual to show only the models of diamonds, so as not to tempt people to robbery, were they so inclined. Manuel, with an indignant gesture, walked towards the door. His Excellency desires me to tell you, said Beausire, that he is sorry that people like M. Bamer and Bassange, jewelers of the Queen, should not know better how to distinguish an ambassador from a rogue, and that he will return to his hotel. The jewelers began to utter most respectful protestations, but Manuel walked on and Beausire followed him. To the ambassador's hotel, Rue de l'Augesin, said Beausire to the footman. A lost business, groaned the valet as they set off. On the contrary, a safe one. In an hour these men will follow us. Chapter 28. The Ambassador's Hotel. On returning to their hotel, these gentlemen found the Corno dining quietly in his bureau. Beausire desired him, when he had finished, to go up and see the ambassador, and added, You will see, my dear Chancellor, that M. de Souza is not an ordinary man. I see that already. His Excellency, continued Beausire, wishes to take a distinguished position in Paris, and this residence will be insupportable to him. He will require a private house. That will complicate the diplomatic business, said de Corno. We shall have to go so often to obtain his signature. His Excellency will give you a carriage, M. de Corno. A carriage for me? Certainly. Every chancellor of a great ambassador should have a carriage, but we will talk of that afterwards. His Excellency wishes to know where the strong box is. Upstairs, close to his own room. So far from you? For greater safety, sir. Robbers would find greater difficulty in penetrating there than here on the ground floor. Robbers, said Beausire disdainfully. For such a little sum? 100,000 francs, said de Corno. It is easy to see M. de Souza's rich, but there is not more kept in any ambassador's house in Europe. Shall we examine it now? Said Beausire. I am rather in a hurry to attend to my own business. Immediately, monsieur. They went up, and the money was found all right. De Corno gave his key to Beausire, who kept it for some time, pretending to admire its ingenious construction, while he cleverly took the impression of it in wax. Then he gave it back, saying, "Keep it, M. de Corno. It is better in your hands than in mine. Let us now go to the ambassador." They found Don Manuel drinking chocolate, and apparently much occupied with a paper covered with ciphers. "Do you understand the ciphers used in the late correspondence?" said he to the Chancellor. "No, Your Excellency. I should wish you to learn it. It will save me a great deal of trouble." "What about the box?" said he to Beausire. "Perfectly correct, like everything else with which M. de Corno has any connection." "Well, sit down, M. de Corno. I want you to give me some information. Do you know any honest jewelers in Paris?" "There are M. Bamer and Bassange, jewelers to the Queen. But they are precisely the people I do not wish to employ. I have just quitted them, never to return. Have they had the misfortune to displease Your Excellency?" "Seriously, M. de Corno." "Oh, if I dared speak." "You may." "I would ask how these people, who bear so high a name—" "They are perfect Jews, M. de Corno, and their bad behavior will make them lose 1,000,000 or 2. I was sent by Her Gracious Majesty to make an offer to them for a diamond necklace." "Oh, the famous necklace which had been ordered by the late king for Madame du Barry. You are a valuable man. Sir, you know everything. Well, now I shall not buy it. Shall I interfere? M. de Corno—" "Oh, only as a diplomatic affair. If you knew them at all. Bassange is a distant relation of mine." At this moment a valet opened the door and announced M. Bamer and Bassange. Don Manuel rose quickly and said in any angry tone, "Send those people away." The valet made a step forward. "No, you do it," said he to his secretary. "I beg you to allow me," said de Corno, and he advanced to meet them. "There, this affair is destined to fail," said Manuel. "No, de Corno will arrange it. I am convinced he will embroil it. You said to jewelers that I did not understand French, and de Corno will let out that I do." "I will go," said Beausire. "Perhaps that is equally dangerous." "Oh, no, only leave me to act." Beausire went down. De Corno had found the jewelers much more disposed to politeness and confidence since entering the hotel. Also, on seeing an old friend, Bassange was delighted. "You here?" said he, and he approached to embrace him. "Ah, you are very amiable today, my rich cousin," said de Corno. "Oh," said Bassange, "if we have been a little separated, forgive and render me a service. I came to do it." "Thanks. You are, then, attached to the embassy?" "Yes." "I want advice." "On what?" "On this embassy." "I am the Chancellor." "That is well, but about the ambassador?" "I come to you, on his behalf, to tell you that he begs you to leave his hotel as quickly as possible." The two jewelers looked at each other, disconcerted. "Because," continued de Corno, "it seems you have been uncivil to him." "But listen." "It is useless," said Beausire, who suddenly appeared. "His Excellency told you to dismiss them. Do it." "But, monsieur—" "I cannot listen," said Beausire. The Chancellor took his relation by the shoulder and pushed him out, saying, "You have spoiled your fortune. Mon Dieu, how susceptible these foreigners are. When one is called Souza and has 900,000 francs a year, One has a right to be anything, said de Corno. Ah, sighed Bassenge. I told you, Bamer, you were too stiff about it. Well, replied the obstinate German, at least, if we do not get his money, he will not get our necklace. De Corno laughed. You do not understand either a Portuguese or an ambassador, bourgeois that you are. I will tell you what they are. One ambassador, M. de Potemkin, bought every year for his queen, on the 1st of January, a basket of cherries which cost 100,000 crowns, 1,000 francs a cherry. Well, M. de Souza will buy up the mines of Brazil till he finds a diamond as big as all yours put together. If it costs him 20 years of his income, what does he care? He has no children. And he was going to shut the door when Bassenge said, Arrange this affair and you shall have... I am incorruptible, said he, and closed the door. That evening the ambassador received this letter. Monseigneur, a man who waits for your orders and desires to present you our respectful excuses is at the door of your hotel, and at a word from your excellency, he will place in the hands of one of your people the necklace of which you did us the honor to speak. Deign to receive, Monseigneur, the assurances of our most profound respect. Bamer and Bassenge. Well, said Manol, on reading this note, the necklace is ours. Not so, said Beausire. It will only be ours when we have bought it. We must buy it. But remember, your excellency does not know French. Yes, I know, but this chancellor? Oh, I will send him away on some diplomatic mission. You are wrong. He will be our security with these men. But he will say that you know French. No, he will not. I will tell him not to do so. Very well, then we will have up the man. The man was introduced. It was Bamer himself, who made many bows and excuses, and offered the necklace for examination. Sit down, said Beausire. His excellency pardons you. Oh, how much trouble to sell, sighed Bamer. How much trouble to steal, thought Beausire. Chapter 29. The Bargain. Then the ambassador consented to examine the necklace in detail. Bamer showed each individual beauty. On the whole, said Beausire, interpreting for Manol, His Excellency sees nothing complainable in the necklace, but there are 10 of the diamonds rather spotted. Oh, said Bamer. His Excellency, interrupted Beausire, understands diamonds perfectly. The Portuguese nobility play with the diamonds of Brazil, as children do here with glass beads. Whatever it may be, however, said Bamer, this necklace is the finest collection of diamonds in all Europe. That is true, said Manol. Then Beausire went on. Well, M. Bamer, Her Majesty the Queen of Portugal has heard of this necklace, and has given M. de Souza commission to buy it, if he approve of the diamonds, which he does. Now, what is the price? 1,600,000 francs. Beausire repeated this to the ambassador. It is 100,000 francs too much, replied Manol. Monseigneur, replied the jeweler, one cannot fix the exact price of the diamonds on a thing like this. It has been necessary, in making this collection, to undertake voyages and make searches and inquiries which no one would believe but myself. 100,000 francs too dear, repeated Manol. And if His Excellency says this, said Beausire, it must be his firm conviction, for he never bargains. Bamer was shaken. Nothing reassures a suspicious merchant so much as a customer who beats down the price. However, he said, after a minute's thought, I cannot consent to a deduction which will make all the difference of loss or profit to myself and my partner. Don Manol, after hearing this translated, rose, and Beausire returned the case to the jeweler. I will, however, speak to M. Bassenge about it, contained Bamer. I am to understand that His Excellency offers 1,500,000 francs for the necklace. Yes, he never draws back from what he has said. But, monsieur, you understand that I must consult with my partner. Certainly, M. Bamer. Certainly, repeated Don Manol, after hearing this translated. But I must have a speedy answer. Well, Monseigneur, if my partner will accept the price, I will. Good. It then only remains, accepting the consent of M. Bassenge, to settle the mode of payment. There will be no difficulty about that, said Beausire. How do you wish to be paid? Oh, said Bamer, laughing, if ready money be possible. What do you call ready money? Said Beausire coldly. Oh, I know no one has 1.5 million of francs ready to pay down, said Bamer, sighing. Certainly not. Still, I cannot consent to dispense with some ready money. That is but reasonable. Then, turning to Manol, how much will your excellency pay down to M. Bamer? 100,000 francs. Beausire repeated this. And when the remainder? Asked Bamer. When we shall have had time to send to Lisbon. Oh, said Bamer. We have a correspondent there, and by writing to him. Yes, said Beausire, laughing ironically, write to him, and ask if Enda Souza is solvent, and if Her Majesty be good for 1,400,000 francs. We cannot, sir. Let this necklace leave France forever without informing the Queen, and our respect and loyalty demand that we should once more give her the refusal of it. It is just, said Manol, with dignity. I should wish a Portuguese merchant to act in the same way. I am very happy that Monseigneur approves of my conduct. Then all is settled, subject only to the consent of M. Bassange and the reiterated refusal of Her Majesty. I ask 3 days to settle these 2 points. On one side, said Beausire, 100,000 francs down, the necklace to be placed in my hands, who will accompany you to Lisbon, to the honor of your correspondents, who are also our bankers. The whole of the money to be paid in 3 months. Yes, Monseigneur, said Bamer, bowing. Manol returned it, and the jeweler took leave. When they were alone, Manol said angrily to Beausire, Please to explain what the devil you mean by this journey to Portugal. Are you mad? Why not have the jewels here in exchange for our money? You think yourself too really ambassador, replied Beausire. You are not yet quite M. de Souza to this jeweler. If he had not thought so, he would not have treated. Agreed. But every man in possession of 1,500,000 francs holds himself above all the ambassadors in the world, and everyone who gives that value in exchange for pieces of paper wishes first to know what the papers are worth. Then you mean to go to Portugal, you, who cannot speak Portuguese properly. I tell you, you are mad. Not at all. You shall go yourself, if you like. Thank you, said Don Manol. There are reasons why I would rather not return to Portugal. Well, I tell you, M. Bamer would never give up the diamonds for mere papers. Paper signed Souza? I said you thought yourself a real Souza. Better say at once that we have failed, said Manol. Not at all. Come here, Captain, said Beausire to the valet. You know what we are talking of? Yes. You have listened to everything? Certainly. Very well. Do you think I have committed a folly? I think you perfectly right. Explain why. M. Bamer would, on the other plan, have been incessantly watching us, and all connected with us. Now, with the money and the diamonds both in his hands, he can have no suspicion, but will set out quietly for Portugal, which, however, he will never reach. Is it not so, M. Beausire? Ah, you are a lad of discernment. Explain your plan, said Manol. About 50 leagues from here, said Beausire. This clever fellow here will come and present 2 pistols at the heads of our postilions, will steal from us all we have, including the diamonds, and will leave M. Bamer half dead with blows. Oh, I did not understand exactly that, said the valet. I thought you would embark for Portugal. And then M. Bamer, like all Germans, will like the sea and walk on the deck. One day he may slip and fall over, and the necklace will be supposed to have perished with him. Oh, I understand, said Manol. That is lucky at last. Only, replied Manol, for stealing diamonds one is simply sent to Bastille, but for murder one is hanged. But for stealing diamonds one may be taken. For a little push to M. Bamer we should never even be suspected. Well, we will settle all this afterwards, said Beausire. At present let us conduct our business in style, so that they may say, if he was not really ambassador, at least he seemed like one. Chapter 30. The Journalist's House. It was the day after the agreement with M. Bamer, and 3 days after the ball at the opera. In the Rue Montorgueil, at the end of a courtyard, was a high and narrow house. The ground floor was a kind of shop, and here lived a tolerably well-known journalist. The other stories were occupied by quiet people who lived there for cheapness. Reto, the journalist, published his paper weekly. It was issued on the day of which we speak, and when Reto rose at 8 o'clock, his servant brought him a copy, still wet from the press. He hastened to peruse it, with the care which a tender father bestows on the virtues or failings of his offspring. When he had finished it, "Aldegonde," said he to the old woman, "this is a capital number. Have you read it?" "Not yet. My soup is not finished." "It is excellent," repeated the journalist. "Yes," said she. "But do you know what they say of it in the printing office?" "What?" "That you will certainly be sent to the Bastille." "Aldegonde," replied Reto calmly, "make me a good soup, and do not meddle with literature." "Always the same," said she, "rash and imprudent. I will buy you some buckles with what I make today. Have many copies been sold yet?" "No, and I fear my buckles will be but poor. Do you remember the number against M. de Broye? We sold 100 before 10 o'clock. Therefore this cannot be as good. Do you know the difference, Aldegonde? Now, instead of attacking an individual, I attack a body, and instead of a soldier, I attack a queen." "The queen!" "Oh! Then there is no fear. The numbers will sell, and I shall have my buckles." "Someone rings," said Reto. The old woman ran to shop, and returned a minute after, triumphant. 1,000 copies, said she. "There's an order." "In whose name?" asked Reto, quickly. "I do not know. But I want no run and ask." "Oh, there's plenty of time. They cannot count 1,000 copies in a minute." "Yes, but be quick. Ask the servant. Is it a servant?" "It is a porter." "Well, ask him where he is to take them to." Aldegonde went, and the man replied that he was to take them to the Rue Neuve Saint Gilles, to the house of the Count de Cagliostro. The journalist jumped with delight, and ran to assist in counting off the numbers. They were not long gone, when there was another ring. "Perhaps that is for another 1,000 copies," cried Aldegonde. "As it is against the Austrian, every one will join in the chorus." "Hush, hush, Aldegonde. Do not speak so loud, but go and see who it is." Aldegonde opened the door to a man, who asked if he could speak to the editor of the paper. "What do you want to say to him?" asked Aldegonde, rather suspiciously. The man rattled some money in his pocket, and said, "I come to pay for the 1,000 copies sent for by M. Le Comte de Cagliostro." "Oh, come in." A young and handsome man, who had advanced just behind him, stopped him as he was about to shut the door, and followed him in. Aldegonde ran to her master. "Come," said she, "here's the money for the 1,000 copies." He went directly, and the man, taking out a small bag, paid down 100 6-franc pieces. Reto counted them and gave a receipt, smiling graciously on the man, and said, "Tell the Count de Cagliostro that I shall always be at his orders, and that I can keep a secret." "There is no need," replied the man. "M. de Cagliostro is independent. He does not believe in magnetism, and wishes to make people laugh at M. Mesmer, that is all." "Good," replied another voice. "We will see if we cannot turn a laugh against M. Cagliostro." And M. Reto, turning, saw before him the young man we mentioned. His glance was menacing. He had his left hand on the hilt of his sword, and a stick in his right. "What can I do for you, sir?" said Reto, trembling. "You are M. Reto?" asked the young man. "Yes, sir." "Journalist and author of this article?" said the visitor, drawing the new number from his pocket. "Not exactly the author, but the publisher," said Reto. "Very well, that comes to the same thing, for if you had not the audacity to write it, you have had the baseness to give it publicity. I say baseness, for, as I am a gentleman, I wish to keep within bounds even with you. If I expressed all I think, I should say that he who wrote this article is infamous, and that he who published it is a villain." "Monsieur!" said Reto, growing pale. "Now listen," continued the young man. "You have received one payment in money. Now you shall have another in caning." "Oh!" cried Reto. "We will see about that." "Yes, we will see," said the young man, advancing towards him. But Reto was used to these sort of affairs, and knew the conveniences of his own house. Turning quickly round, He gained a door which shut after him, and which opened into a passage leading to a gate, through which there was an exit into the Rue Vieux Augustines. Once there, he was safe, for in this gate the key was always left, and he could lock it behind him. But this day was an unlucky one for the poor journalist, for, just as he was about to turn the key, he saw coming towards him another young man, who, in his agitation, appeared to him like a perfect Hercules. He would have retreated, but he was now between two fires, as his first opponent had by this time discovered him and was advancing upon him. "Monsieur, let me pass, if you please," said Retto to the young man who guarded the gate. "Monsieur," cried the one who followed him, "stop the fellow, I beg. Do not be afraid, M. de Charny. He shall not pass." "M. de Taverny," cried Charny, for it was really he who was the first comer. Both these young men, on reading the article that morning, had conceived the same idea, because they were animated with the same sentiments, and, unknown to each other, had hastened to put it in practice. Each, however, felt a kind of displeasure at seeing the other, divining a rival in a man who had the same idea as himself. Thus it was that with a rather disturbed manner Charny had called out, "You am de Taverny." "Even so," replied the other in the same way. "But it seems I am come too late, and can only look on unless you will be kind enough to open the gate." "Oh!" cried Retto. "Do you want to murder me, gentlemen?" "No," said Charny. "We do not want to murder you, but first we will ask a few questions. Then we will see the end. You permit me to speak, M. de Taverny?" "Certainly. Sir, you have the precedence, having arrived first." Charny bowed. Then, turning to Retto, said, "You confess, then, that you have published against the Queen the playful little tale, as you call it, which appeared this morning in your paper?" "Monsieur, it is not against the Queen." "Good. It only wanted that." "You are very patient, sir," cried Philippe, who was boiling with rage outside the gate. "Oh, be easy, sir," replied Charny. "He shall lose nothing by waiting." "Yes," murmured Philippe, "but I also am waiting." Charny turned again to Retto. "Atteniatna is Antoinette transposed. Oh, do not lie, sir, or instead of beating or simply killing you, I shall burn you alive. But tell me if you are the sole author of this." "I am not an informer," said Retto. "Very well. That means that you have an accomplice. And first, the man who bought 1,000 copies of this infamy, the Count de Cagliostro, but he shall pay for his share when you have paid for yours." "Monsieur, I do not accuse him," said Retto, who feared that he should encounter the anger of Cagliostro after he had done with these two. Charny raised his cane. "Oh, if I had a sword," cried Retto. Philippe, will you lend your sword to this man?" "No, M. de Charny. I cannot lend my sword to a man like that, but I will lend you my cane, if yours does not suffice." "Corbleu, a cane!" cried Retto. "Do you know that I am a gentleman?" "Then lend me your sword, M. de Taverny. He shall have mine, and I will never touch it again," cried Charny. Philippe unsheathed his sword, and passed it through the railings. "Now," said Charny, throwing down his sword at the feet of Retto, "you call yourself a gentleman, and you write such infamies against the Queen of France. Pick up that sword, and let us see what kind of gentleman you are." But Retto did not stir. He seemed as afraid of the sword at his feet as he had been of the uplifted cane. "Morbleu!" cried Philippe. "Open the gate to me." "Pardon, monsieur," said Charny, "but you acknowledge my right to be first." "Then be quick, for I am in a hurry to begin. I wish to try other methods before resorting to this, for I am not much more fond of inflicting a caning than M. Retto is of receiving one, but as he prefers it to fighting, he shall be satisfied." And a cry from Retto soon announced that Charny had begun. The noise soon attracted old Aldegonde, who joined her voice to her master's. Charny minded one no more than the other. At last, however, he stopped, tired with his work. "Now have you finished, sir?" said Philippe. "Yes." "Then pray return me my sword, and let me in." "Oh, no, monsieur," implored Retto, who hoped for a protector in the man who had finished with him. "I cannot leave monsieur outside the door," said Charny. "Oh, it is a murder," cried Retto. "Kill me right off, and have done with it." "Be easy," said Charny. "I do not think monsieur will touch you." "You are right," said Philippe. "You have been beaten. Let it suffice. But there are the remaining numbers which must be destroyed. Oh, yes, cried Charney. You see, 2 heads are better than 1. I should have forgotten that. But how did you happen to come to this gate, M. de Taverny? I made some inquiries in the neighborhood about this fellow, and hearing that he had this mode of escape, I thought by coming in here and locking the gate after me, I should cut off his retreat and make sure of him. The same idea of vengeance struck you, only more in a hurry. You came straight to his house without any inquiries, and he would have escaped you if I had not luckily been here. I am rejoiced that you were M. de Taverny. Now, fellow, lead us to your press. It is not here, said Retto. A lie, said Charney. No, no, cried Philippe. We do not want to press. The numbers are all printed in here, except those sold to M. de Cagliostro. Then he shall burn them before our eyes. And they pushed Retto into his shop. Chapter 31. How 2 friends became enemies. Aldegonde, however, had gone to fetch the guard, but before she returned they had had time to light a fire with the first numbers, and were throwing them in, one after another, as quickly as possible, when the guard appeared, followed by a crowd of ragged men, women, and boys. Happily, Philippe and Charney knew Retto's secret exit, so when they caught sight of the guard, they made their escape through it, carrying the key with them. Then Retto began crying murder, while Aldegonde, seeing the flames of the window, cried fire. The soldiers arrived, but finding the young men gone and the house not on fire, went away again, leaving Retto to bathe his bruises. But the crowd lingered about all day, hoping to see a renewal of the fun. When Taverny and Charney found themselves in the Rue Vieux Augustines, Monsieur, said Charney, now we have finished that business. Can I be of any use to you? Thanks, sir. I was about to ask you the same question. Thank you. But I have private business which will probably keep me in Paris all day. Permit me, then, to take leave of you. I am happy to have met you. And I you, sir. And the 2 young men bowed, but it was easy to see that all this courtesy went no further than the lips. Philippe went towards the boulevards, while Charney turned to the river. Each turned 2 or 3 times till he thought himself quite out of sight, but after walking for some time Charney entered the Rue Neuve Saint-Gilles, and there once more found himself face to face with Philippe. Each had again the same idea of demanding satisfaction from the Count de Cagliostro. They could not now doubt each other's intentions. So Philippe said, I left you the cellar, leave me the buyer. I left you the cane, leave me the sword. Sir, replied Charney, you left it to me simply because I came first, and for no other reason. Well, replied Taverny, here we arrive both together, and I will make no concession. I did not ask you for any, sir, only I would offend my right, and that, according to you, M. de Charney is to make M. de Cagliostro burn his 1,000 copies. Remember, sir, that it was my idea to burn the others. Then I will have these torn. Monsieur, I am sorry to tell you that I wish to have the first turn with M. de Cagliostro. All that I can agree to, sir, is to take our chance. I will throw up a Louis, and whoever guesses right shall be first. Thanks, sir, but I am not generally lucky and should probably lose. And he stepped towards the door. Charney stopped him. Stay, sir, we will soon understand each other. Well, sir, answered Philippe, turning back. Then, before asking satisfaction of M. de Cagliostro, suppose we take a turn in the Bois de Boulogne. It will be out of our way, but perhaps we can settle our dispute there. One of us will probably be left behind, and the other be uninterrupted. Really, monsieur, said Philippe, you echo my own thoughts. Where shall we meet? Well, if my society be not insupportable to you, we need not part. I order my carriage to wait for me in the Place Royale, close by here. Then you will give me a seat? Said Philippe. With the greatest pleasure. And they walked together to the carriage, and getting in, set off for the Champs-Élysées. First, however, Charney wrote a few words on his tablets, and gave them to the footman to take to his hotel. In less than half an hour, they reached the Bois de Boulogne. The weather was lovely, and the air delightful, although the power of the sun was already felt. The fresh leaves were appearing on the trees, and the violets filled the place with their perfume. It is a fine day for our promenade, is it not, M. de Taverny? Said Charney. Beautiful, sir. You may go, said Charney to his coachman. Are you not wrong, sir, to send away your carriage? One of you may need it. No, sir, replied Charney. In this affair, secrecy before everything, and once the knowledge is servant, we risk being talked of all over Paris tomorrow. As you please. But do you think the fellow does not know what he came here for? These people know well what brings two gentlemen to the Bois de Boulogne, and even if he did not feel sure now, he will perhaps afterwards see one of us wounded, and will have no doubts left then. Is it not then better to keep him here to take back either who shall need him, than to be left, or leave me here, wounded and alone? You are right, monsieur, replied Charney, and turned to coachman. He said, No, stop, Dauphin. You shall wait here. Dauphin remained accordingly, and as he perfectly guessed what was coming, he arranged his position so as to see through the still leafless trees all that passed. They walked on a little way. Then Philippe said, I think, de Charney, this is a good place. Excellent, monsieur, said Charney, and added, Chevalier, if it were anyone but you, I would say one word courtesy, and we were friends again, but to you, coming from America, where they fight so well, I cannot. And I, sir, to you, who the other evening gained the admiration of an entire court by a glorious feat of arms, can only say Le Comte, do me the honor to draw your sword. Monsieur, said Charney, I believe we have neither of us touched on the real cause of quarrel. I do not understand you, Comte. Oh, you understand me perfectly, sir, and you blush while you deny it. Defend yourself, cried Philippe. Their swords crossed. Philippe soon perceived that he was superior to his adversary, and therefore became as calm as though he had been only fencing, and was satisfied with defending himself without attacking. You spare me, sir, said Charney. May I ask why? Philippe went on as before. Charney grew warm, and wished to provoke him from the sang-froid. Therefore he said, I told you, sir, that we had not touched on the real cause of the quarrel. Philippe did not reply. The true cause, continued Charney, why you sought a quarrel, for it was you who sought it, was that you were jealous of me. Still Philippe remained silent. What is your intention? Again said Charney. Do you wish to tire my arm? That is a calculation unworthy of you. Kill me if you can, but do not dally thus. Yes, sir, replied Philippe at last. Your reproach is just. The quarrel did begin with me, and I was wrong. That is not the question now. You have your sword in your hand. Use it for something more than mere defense. Monsieur, said Philippe, I have the honor to tell you once more I was wrong, and that I apologize. But Charney was by this time too excited to appreciate the generosity of his adversary. Oh, said he, I understand. You wish to play the magnanimous with me. That is it not, Chevalier? You wish to relate to the ladies this evening how you brought me here, and then spared my life. Count, said Philippe, I fear you are losing your senses. You wish to kill into Cagliostro to please the queen, and, for the same reason, you wish to turn me into ridicule. Ah, this is too much, cried Philippe, and proves to me that you have not as generous a heart as I thought. Pierce it then, cried Charney, exposing himself as Philippe made another pass. The sword glanced along his ribs, and the blood flowed rapidly. At last, cried Charney, I am wounded. Now I may kill you if I can. Decidedly, said Philippe, you are mad. You will not kill me. You will only be disabled without cause and without profit, for no one will ever know for what you have fought. And as Charney made another pass, he dexterously sent his sword flying from his hand. Then, seizing it, he broke it across his foot. De Charney, said he, you did not require to prove to me that you were brave. You must therefore detest me very much when you fight with such fury. Charney did not reply, but grew visibly pale and then tottered. Philippe advanced to support him, but he repulsed him, saying, I can reach my carriage. At least take this handkerchief to stop the blood. Willingly. And my arm, sir. At the least obstacle you met you would fall, and give yourself unnecessary pain. The sword has only penetrated the skin. I hope soon to be well. So much the better, sir, but I warn you that you will find it difficult to make me your adversary again. Charney tried to reply, but the words died on his lips. He staggered, and Philippe had but just time to catch him in his arms and bear him half fainting to his carriage. Dauphin, who had seen what had passed, advanced to meet him, and they put Charney in. Drive slowly, said Philippe, who then took his way back to Paris, murmuring to himself with a sigh, "She will pity him." Chapter 32. The House in the Rue St. Gilles. Philippe jumped into the first coach he saw and told the man to drive to the Rue St. Gilles, where he stopped at the house of M. de Cagliostro. A large carriage with 2 good horses was standing in the courtyard. The coachman was asleep, wrapped in a greatcoat of foxskins, and 2 footmen walked up and down before the door. "Does the Count Cagliostro live here?" asked Philippe. "He is just going out." "The more reason to be quick, for I wish to speak to him first," announced the Chevalier Philippe de Taverny, and he followed the men upstairs. "Ask him to walk in," said from within a voice at once manly and gentle. "Excuse me, sir," said the Chevalier to a man whom we have already seen, first at the table of M. de Richelieu, then at the exhibition of M. Mesmer, in Oliva's room, and with her at the opera ball. "For what, sir?" replied he. "Because I prevent you from going out. You would have needed an excuse had you been much later, for I was waiting for you." "For me?" "Yes. I was forewarned of your visit." "Of my visit?" "Yes, 2 hours ago. It is about that time, is it not, since you were coming here before, when an interruption caused you to postpone the execution of your project?" Philippe began to experience the same strange sensation with which this man inspired everyone. "Sit down, and de Taverny," continued he, "this armchair was placed for you." "A truce to pleasantry, sir," said Philippe, in a voice which he vainly tried to render calm. "I do not jest, sir." "Then a truce to charlatanism. If you are a sorcerer, I did not come to make trial of your skill. But if you are, so much the better, for you must know what I am come to say to you." "Oh, yes, you are come to see the quarrel. You know that? Perhaps you also know why. On account of the Queen. Now, sir, I am ready to listen." And these last words were no longer pronounced in the courteous tones of a host, but in the hard and dry ones of an adversary. "Sir, there exists a certain publication." "There are many publications," said Cagliostro. "Well, this publication today was written against the Queen." Cagliostro did not reply. "You know what I refer to, Count?" "Yes, sir. You have bought 1,000 copies of it." "I do not deny it. Luckily, they have not reached your hands." "What makes you think so, sir?" "Because I met the porter, paid him, and sent him with them to my house, and my servant, instructed by me, will destroy them." "You should always finish yourself the work you commence, sir. Are you sure these 1,000 copies are at your house?" "Certainly." "You deceive yourself, sir. They are here." "Ah, you thought that I, sorcerer that I am, would let myself be foiled in that way. You thought it a brilliant idea to buy off my messenger. Well, I have a steward, and you see it is natural for the steward of a sorcerer to be one also." He divined that you would go to the journalist, and that you would meet my messenger, whom he afterwards followed, and threatened to make him give back the gold you had given him, if he did not follow his original instructions, instead of taking them to you. But I see you doubt. "I do. Look, then, and you will believe." And, opening an oak cabinet, he showed the astonished Chevalier the 1,000 copies lying there. Philippe approached the Count in a menacing attitude, but he did not stir. "Sir," said Philippe, "you appear a man of courage. I call upon you to give me immediate satisfaction." "Satisfaction for what?" "For the insult to the Queen, of which you render yourself an accomplice, while you keep one number of this vile paper." "Monsieur," said Cagliostro, "you are in error. I like novelties, scandalous reports, and other amusing things, and collect them that I may remember at a later day what I should otherwise forget. A man of honor, sir, does not collect infamies. But if I do not think this an infamy, you will allow at least that it is a lie. You deceive yourself, sir. The Queen was at M. Mesmer's." "It is false, sir." "You mean to tell me I lie?" "I do." "Well, I will reply in a few words. I saw her there." "You saw her?" "As plainly as I now see you." Philippe looked full at Cagliostro. "I still say, sir, that you lie." Cagliostro shrugged his shoulders, as though he were talking to a madman. "Do you not hear me, sir?" said Philippe. "Every word." "And do you not know what giving a lie deserves?" "Yes, sir. There is a French proverb which says it merits a box on the ears." "Well, Sir, I am astonished that your hand has not been already raised to give it, as you are a French gentleman and know the proverb. Although a French gentleman, I am a man and love my brother. Then you refuse me satisfaction? I only pay what I owe. Then you will compel me to take satisfaction in another manner. How? I exact that you burn the numbers before my eyes, or I will proceed with you as with the journalists. Oh, a beating, said Cagliostro, laughing. Neither more nor less, sir. Doubtless you can call your servants. Oh, I shall not call my servants. It is my own business. I am stronger than you, and if you approach me with your cane, I shall take you in my arms and throw you across the room, and shall repeat this as often as you repeat your attempt. Well, Hercules, I accept the challenge, said Philippe, throwing himself furiously upon Cagliostro, who, seizing him round the neck and waist with grasp of iron, threw him on a pile of cushions, which lay some way off, and then remained standing as coolly as ever. Philippe rose as pale as death. Sir, said he in a hoarse voice, you are in fact stronger than I am, but your logic is not as strong as your arm, and you forgot, when you treated me thus, that you gave me the right to say, defend yourself, Count, or I will kill you. Cagliostro did not move. Draw your sword, I tell you, sir, or you are a dead man. You are not yet sufficiently near for me to treat you as before, and I will not expose myself to be killed by you like poor Gilbert. Gilbert, cried Philippe, reeling back. Did you say Gilbert? Happily you have no gun this time, only a sword. Monsieur, cried Philippe, you have pronounced a name which has awakened a terrible echo in your remembrance. Has it not? A name that you never thought to hear again, for you were alone with the poor boy in the grotto of Asaurus when you assassinated him. Oh, said Philippe, will you not draw? If you knew, said Cagliostro, how easily I could make your sword fly from your hand. With your sword? Yes, with my sword if I wished. Then try. No, I have a still surer method. For the last time, defend yourself, said Philippe, advancing towards him. Then the Count took from his pocket a little bottle, which he uncorked, and threw the contents in Philippe's face. Scarcely had it touched him, when he reeled, let his sword drop, and fell senseless. Cagliostro picked him up, put him on a sofa, waited for his senses to return, and then said, At your age, Chevalier, we should have done with follies. Cease, therefore, to act like a foolish boy and listen to me. Philippe made an effort to shake off the torpor which still held possession of him, and murmured, Oh, sir, do you call these the weapons of a gentleman? Cagliostro shrugged his shoulders. You repeat forever the same word, he said, when we of the nobility have opened our mouths wide enough to utter the word gentleman. We think we have said everything. What do you call the weapons of a gentleman? Is it your sword, which served you so badly against me, or is it your gun, which served you so well against Gilbert? What makes some men superior to others? Do you think that it is that high-sounding word gentleman? No, it is first reason, then strength, most of all, science. Well, I have used all these against you. With my reason I braved your insults. With my strength I conquered yours, and with my science I extinguished at once your moral and physical powers. Now I wish to show you that you have committed two faults in coming here with menaces in your mouth. Will you listen to me? You have overpowered me, replied Philippe. I can scarcely move. You have made yourself master of my muscles and of my mind, and then you ask me if I will listen. Then Cagliostro took down from the chimney-piece another little gold file. Smell this, Chevalier, said he. Philippe obeyed, and it seemed to him that the cloud which hung over him dispersed. Oh, I revive, he cried. And you feel free and strong? Yes. With your full powers and memory of the past? Yes. Then this memory gives me an advantage over you. No, said Philippe, for I acted in defense of a vital and sacred principle. What do you mean? I defended the monarchy. You defended the monarchy? You, who went to America to defend a republic. Ah, mon Dieu! Be frank. It is not the monarchy you defend. Philippe colored. To love those who disdain you, continued Cagliostro, who deceive and forget you, is the attribute of great souls. It is the law of the Scriptures to return good for evil. You are a Christian, M. de Taverny. Monsieur, cried Philippe, not a word more. If I did not defend the monarchy, I defended the queen, that is to say, an innocent woman, and to be respected even if she were not so, for it is a divine law not to attack the weak. The weak? The queen? You call a feeble being her to whom 28 million human beings bow the knee. Monsieur, they calumniate her. How do you know? I believe it. Well, I believe the contrary. We have each the right to think as we please. But you act like an evil genius. Who tells you so? Cried Cagliostro with sparkling eyes. How? Have you the temerity to assume that you are right and that I am wrong? You defend royalty. Well, I defend the people. You say, render to Caesar the things which are Caesar's. And I say, render to God the things that are God's. Republican of America, I recall you to the love of the people, to the love of equality. You trample on the people to kiss the hands of a queen. I would throw down a queen to elevate a people. I do not disturb you in your adoration. Leave me in peace at my work. You say to me, die, for you have offended the object of my worship. And I say to you, who combat mine, live, for I feel myself so strong in my principles that neither you nor anyone else can retard my progress for an instant. Sir, you frighten me, said Philippe. You show me the danger in which our monarchy is. Then be prudent and shun the opening gulf. You know, replied Philippe, that I would sooner entomb myself in it than see those whom I defend in danger. Well, I have warned you. And I, said Philippe, I, who am but a feeble individual, will use against you the arms of the weak. I implore you, with tearful eyes and joined hands, to be merciful towards those whom you pursue. I ask you to spare me the remorse of knowing you were acting against this poor queen and not preventing you. I beg you to destroy this publication, which would make a woman shed tears. I ask you, by the love which you have guessed, or I swear that with this sword, which has proved so powerless against you, I will pierce myself before your eyes. Ah, murmured Cagliostro, why are they not all like you? Then I would join them, and they should not perish. Monsieur, I pray you to reply to me. See then, said Cagliostro, if all the 1,000 numbers be there, and burn them yourself. Philippe ran to the cabinet, took them out, and threw them on the fire. Adieu, monsieur, then he said. 100 thanks for the favor you have granted me. I owed the brother, said Cagliostro when he had gone, some compensation for all I made the sister endure. Then he called for his carriage. Chapter 33. The head of the Taverny family. While this was passing the Rue St. Gilles, the elder M. Taverny was walking in his garden, followed by 2 footmen, who carried a chair, which they approached him every 5 minutes, that he might rest. While doing so, a servant came to announce the Chevalier. My son, said the old man. Come, Philippe, you arrive apropos. My heart is full of happy thoughts. But how solemn you look. Do I, sir? You know already the results of that affair. What affair? The old man looked to see that no one was listening, then said, I speak of the ball. I do not understand. Oh, the ball of the opera. Philippe colored. Sit down, continued his father. I want to talk to you. It seems that you, so timid and delicate at first, now compromise her too much. Whom do you mean, sir? Pardieu, do you think I am ignorant of your escapade? Both together the opera ball? It was pretty. Sir, I protest. Oh, do not be angry. I only mean to warn you for your good. You are not careful enough. You were seen there with her. I was seen. Pardieu, had you or not, a blue domino. Philippe was about to explain that he had not, and did not know what his father meant, but he thought to himself, it is of no use to explain to him. He never believes me. Besides, I wish to learn more. You see, continued the old man triumphantly, you were recognized. Indeed, under Richelieu, who was at the ball in spite of his 84 years, wondered who the blue domino could be with whom the queen was walking, and he could only suspect you, for he knew all the others. And pray, how does he say he recognized the queen? Not very difficult, when she took her mask off. Such audacity as that surpasses all imagination. She must really be mad about you. But take care, Chevalier, You have jealous rivals to fear. It is an envied post to be favored of the queen, when the queen is the real king. Pardon my moralizing, but I do not wish that the breath of chance should blow down what you have reared so skillfully. Philippe rose. The conversation was hateful to him, but a kind of savage curiosity impelled him to hear everything. We are already envied, continued the old man. That is natural, but we have not yet attained the height to which we shall rise. To you will belong the glory of raising our name, and now you are progressing so well. Only be prudent, or you will fail after all. Soon, however, you must ask for some high post, and obtain for me a lord lieutenancy not too far from Paris. Then you can have a peerage, and become a duke and lieutenant general. In 2 years, if I am still alive. Enough, enough, groaned Philippe. Oh, if you're satisfied with that, I am not. You have a whole life before you. Perhaps only a few months. However, I do not complain. God gave me 2 children, and if my daughter has been useless in repairing our fortunes, you will make up for it. I see in you the great Taverny, and you inspire me with respect, for your conduct has been admirable. You show no jealousy, but leave the field apparently open to everyone, while you really hold it alone. I do not understand you, replied Philippe. Oh, no modesty. It was exactly the conduct of M. Potemkin, who astonished the world with his fortunes. He saw that Catherine loved variety in her amours, that if left free, she would fly from flower to flower, returning always the sweetest and most beautiful, but that if pursued, she would fly right away. He took his part, therefore. He even introduced new favorites to his sovereign, to weary her out with their number, but through and after the quickly succeeding reigns of the 12 Caesars, as they were ironically called, Potemkin in reality was supreme. What incomprehensible infamies, murmured poor Philippe. But the old man went on. According to his system, however, you have been still a little wrong. He never abandoned his surveillance, and you are too lax in this. Philippe replied only by shrugging his shoulders. He really began to think his father was crazy. You thought I did not see your game. You are already providing a successor, for you have divined that there is no stability in the queen's amours, and in the event of her changing, you wish not to be quite thrown aside. Therefore you make friends with M. de Charny, who might otherwise, when his turn comes, exile you, as you now might into Coigny Vaudreuil and others. Philippe, with an angry flush, said, Once more enough. I am ashamed to have listened so long. Those who say that the Queen of France is a Messalina are criminal calumniators. I tell you, said the old man, no one can hear, and I approve your plan. De Charny will repay your kindness some day. Your logic is admirable, sir, and de Charny is so much my favorite that I had just passed my sword through his ribs. What? Cried the old man, somewhat frightened at his son's flashing eyes. You have not been fighting? Yes, sir. That is my method of conciliating my successors. And he turned to go away. Philippe, you jest. I do not, sir. The old man rose and tottered off to the house. Quick, said he to the servant. Let a man on horseback go at once and ask after M. de Charny, who has been wounded, and let him be sure to say he comes from me. Then he murmured to himself, Mine is still the only head in the family.